Sound to your mind.
Breathe. I stay quiet as I light on my loud light. Breathe. I balance diet, I'm just trying to get my pounds right. Breathe. I stay quiet as I light on my loud light. Breathe. I balance diet, I'm just trying to get my pounds right. Shouts all of my team, I need more than a mattress support. In my dreams, could grab a few Z's like I'm falling asleep, but I don't wanna wake for the morning. Grief, breathe. Tears drop to the form in the sea. I broke heart, but it's worn in my sleeve. Never listened, I was warned in my teens, but I still skipped school, I was taught in the streets. Ring back, don't call for police. Stand tall, don't fall for the beast. Got issues with trust, so I'm born to believe. We've been a victim of love and now we're caught in it deep. Breathe.
Tier list is back. The tier list is back. You know what? I actually enjoy doing these ones because you know what? I think you tend to forget, man. I think you tend to forget about so many bad boy players that were there back in the day. And as I said, man, I think for me, it's one of them things where there were just so many top players back then. And right now in this era of football, as I keep saying, and I'll keep it consistent, you know, there ain't too many top players, man, out there, unfortunately. But yeah, what I would say, man, is I enjoy doing these tier lists, and you know, I'm probably gonna do a few more. You know, I probably might start seeing all the different tier lists, different players, etc., and seeing what list we can put them into, man. So yeah, but big up to Fitz, LCM, big up yourself, bro. Big up yourself. Big up to Babs One Diva each and every time as well. Guys, I think there's actually a problem with YouTube at the moment. So obviously I know there's a couple of you in there at the moment, but it's not actually showing on my screen. So yeah, as at the moment it's showing 0, but it is what it is, and we'll get it going anyway. But I hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's enjoying their Monday as well. As I said, man, I've got a bit of free time now for the next couple of weeks to be putting out even more content for you guys. As I said, the content's free. You know, it's in-depth knowledge as well. And again, if you guys do enjoy the content, as always, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel. Make sure you share the channel. And guys, make sure you come through tonight at 5:30 as well. That's going to be a good one, you know, because, you know, there's not a lot of people that I see on YouTube doing discussions around certain things, you know, and for me, it's always good to, you know, do your research rather than just following, you know, the general consensus that people want to try and push out their certain narratives, and look at doing your research and look at players that, you know, that's why I've called it underrated versus overrated, because it definitely is going to be that tonight. So yeah, make sure you join us at 5:30 with myself, Fitz, and Jonas as we go through, obviously, some stuff that we need to go through during this international break. But yeah, listen, let's get on to it anyway, the tier list. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. And guys, keep your questions, keep your comments coming through as well. And again, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this one. Spare me 1 minute. Right, so guys, as you can see, yeah, on the there's 4 boxes that I've altered on it. Yeah, so I've got elite, world class, very good, and very good. So I don't think it's right with the list of players that are on here that, you know, I should be looking at this as, you know, these players should go into a decent category or a poor category, because all these players on this list there, they are all at a very good level. You know, some of them have retired, some of them are actually playing. But what I'm going to go through is it's going to be a mixture of how good they were, and it's going to be a mixture of possibly titles won. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm just going to draw back to some of the trophies that these players did win with their clubs. But for me, mainly, it's going to be based around just how good I thought these players were. And as I said, you got elite, you got world class, you've got very good, and you've got good. Big up to Craven Cottage as well. Guys, keep your questions and comments coming through. As I said, I think there's a problem with YouTube, so it's actually showing a 0 on it. So yeah, keep your questions and comments coming through, and I will definitely get back to them. So again, we're gonna start off now anyway. So there's a list of 50 players, and I'm gonna just devise what I'm gonna look at what tier they go into. And again, I have put good as the very last one, and I think, if I'm honest, I don't think too many of these players will be going into good, if I'm honest. But yeah, listen, we are gonna see what we think. And again, if some of you, if you guys do disagree with me, make sure you put that into the chat as well. So first player we're gonna go through is Jordi Alba. Jordi Alba, formerly of Valencia, Spanish international, really made his name for Barcelona, and for me, I would go as far and say, yeah, he at his time at Barcelona was definitely one of the best left backs in the world. I think the fullback pairing, the partnership, if you look at the likes of right now, Nuno Mendes and Achraf Hakimi are possibly the best pairing in world football in terms of fullbacks, right and left back. And I think when Jordi Alba and Dani Alves were both at Barcelona, I think you had the best pairings there, in terms of their attacking prowess, in terms of what they won as well in that MSN team, and the effect they had. And what I like about this is how I like to see my fullbacks. Yeah, big up to Foxy Danny as well for coming through. What I like to see in fullbacks is fullbacks going around the outside, creating that extra creating another dimension for your attacking options. So this is why I like watching, I like seeing inverted players, because if you got inverted players, basically it lets you have more of a dimension in terms of your attacking. So you can get players that are left-footed coming in field to either link with the front man or get shots off, whilst you've got the fullback on the outside. And then you've got it just offers up basically more avenues to attack. And I think if you look at Dani Alves and Jordi Alba, they provided that width, they provided the overlap for the likes of Messi and Neymar to do what they did. Big up to Mr. Silky Kev. Long time, Mr. Silky Kev. You're back. Big up yourself. So yeah, and for me, Jordi Alba, I think, as I said, he was one of the best left backs in his era at Barcelona for sure. But for me, I'm going to be very critical in how I judge players, because when I'm looking at elite players, yeah, you are like the creme de la creme. You are the absolute elite, yeah, and there's no questions asked. And then world class for me means you were top. You were world class, but you weren't the very best, in my opinion. Very good, I think. It could be a mixture of, you were a very good player, as it says on there, but you weren't really regarded as, the best of the best, really. And then good, as we know, is obviously just below very good. And it's, yeah, just more or less, yeah, you were good, but nothing really to write home about, in a sense, And again, this is going to be difficult. And I know Craven Cottage is saying Philip Lahm was the elite fullback for me, and I can't even disagree. So we are going to get into that, because, as I said, man, it's going to be a difficult list, and I'm going to be very critical in how I see it. So Jordi Alba, for me, although I think he was a top player, I'm going to say he was very good. I'm going to put him into the very good category. And as I said, he was fundamental to how Barcelona's attack was. But I think in terms of how I see other players in his position, I don't think he was as good. And again, when I'm putting him to very good, that's no slight on Jordi Alba, but it's a very tough list um to devise, man. As I said, and I know there's going to be a few people that might disagree, but this is why I like doing these kind of tier lists. So again, Jordi Alba for me goes into very good. Let's move on. We're going to go on to Alexis Sanchez. Now, Alexis Sanchez, formerly of Barcelona. Before Barcelona, it was Udinese, and obviously he made his way from Barca to Arsenal, and then obviously Arsenal to Manchester United. Now, I think in terms of Premier League wide players, I think Alexis Sanchez for me is definitely up there. His time at Barcelona, I remember when Barca first signed him from Udinese, I was excited. And let's not forget as well, Alexis Sanchez played as like a number 10 for Udinese, and obviously coming to Barcelona, played out wide, on the left or the right. And he was dangerous, Alexis Sanchez. But I think where Alexis Sanchez really made his name, and I think the chat would agree as well, was when he actually went to Arsenal. Because him and Ozil together were Arsenal's two best players. And Alexis Sanchez was another... I'll say Gareth Bale in terms of playing for a team that wasn't winning trophies, but you could clearly see that was one of the best players in the league, and there was no discussion. There was no debate about that, really. And I was a massive fan of Alexis Sanchez. When Alexis Sanchez come to Manchester United, I think in hindsight you're looking at it thinking, it's going to be a good signing, but you could clearly see that he was on a decline, and his time at Manchester United was an absolute joke, let's be honest. But I remember his time at Arsenal, man. He was devastating. Some of the goals he scored, one-man army as well at times. And yeah, man, obviously for Chile as well, and what these South American players have in abundance, yeah, they have, they've got a spirit in them, a fighting desire, man, to be the best. And I think when you couple that with talent, you've got a top player there, and how I see Alexis Sanchez from his time at Man United, I'm not really going to judge him on that, because I want to remember the Alexis Sanchez that I remember that was a top player for Barcelona, definitely for Arsenal, and for Chile as well. So I'm going to put Alexis Sanchez into the world-class category. World-class category for me. Guys, let me know what you think as well in the chat, if you agree or disagree. As I said, there's a glitch with YouTube, so I don't even know who's in there at the moment, but big up yourselves anyway. Next player we're going to move on to, obviously someone that's in the thumbnail. Now, when we look at the best fullbacks, if we're talking about right backs to play the game, the likes of Cafu comes through. You got Cafu for me. Someone's mentioned Philip Lahm already as well. And for me, there's no doubting in Dani Alves. So Dani Alves for me is just going to go... I'm not going to waste my time. Yeah. Dani Alves for me goes straight into elite. And I'll tell you why Dani Alves for me is elite, yeah? Not only was Dani Alves' partnership with Messi on that right-hand side, not only was it, arguably in terms of a right back and a wide forward out there, not only for me was it one of the best pairings that I've seen. These two were just telepathic. It was Messi coming in field, Dani Alves creating the overlap. But I remember some of the games watching Barcelona where Dani Alves and Messi, they didn't even need to look at each other, but they just knew each other's game so well. And Dani Alves was a massive factor in how Lionel Messi become Lionel Messi, because Alves allowed Messi to just be that player, to just come in field and do what he did, because Dani Alves was that talented as a fullback, up and down. And as I said, he was someone for me that Spanish football suited him perfectly. You know, very technical league. Dani Alves fitted that. And how good Dani Alves was is that he was as good as some of the best wingers in the world. That's how talented he was. You know, chipped him with a few goals as well. But for me, I just think in terms of his touch, his technique, his game understanding, very tenacious as well, as you would see with a lot of South American players. And when I look at right backs to ever play the game, like just natural right backs, I only put Cafu either ahead of Dani Alves or on par. That's how highly I rate him because he was that good. You got players like Maicon as well that was there. They're the absolute elite right backs. Obviously, Maicon got destroyed by Gareth Bale, as we know. But when I look at elite right backs, I look at now you've got Reece James and you've got Achraf Hakimi. But Dani Alves, for me, is arguably one of the best right backs of all time. You know, as I said, man, I don't see too many right. I think the only one really we're talking about as a right back is Cafu. Again, if there's any other right backs that anyone can think of, then please let me know. But Dani Alves for me goes straight into the elite category, the first player. Moving on, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Now, Aubameyang for me, I don't actually think he was a great player. I mean, I remember watching Aubameyang when he was at Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, before Borussia Dortmund, I can't remember who he was playing for actually. In actual fact, he was at AC Milan. If anyone remembers, he was in AC Milan's reserve team when he was younger, and then I can't remember where he went from there. But obviously, made his way to Borussia Dortmund, playing as part of that strike force with Lewandowski through the middle, Aubameyang from the right, and I think it was Marco Reus on the left, I believe, and I think it might have been Goetze in there. I can't remember, but I wasn't a massive fan of Aubameyang as the football player, but in terms of his continuous goal scoring and his consistency, like that can't be argued, you know, because wherever he went, he put the ball in the back of the net. And as soon as Lewandowski left Borussia Dortmund and Aubameyang went as the central striker, this is where he came alive for me, you know. And then obviously got the move to Arsenal after that. And I remember back in the day, you know, playing the Pro Evo games, you know, I had a friend that played that had we used to do a thing where literally, you know, this was unheard of. You know, you'd have there was 4 of us, and you would just pick basically a team of 1 to 11 or 1 to 11. But the way that we would do it in order. So we would play a game of cards, and then whoever won the card game or whatever, you get first pick, and then you'd go for second, third, and fourth. So you might get first pick on a goalkeeper. So someone might take, let's say, Manuel Neuer, which means you've got to then take another keeper, and then you will go on to defense. But someone might go for, I don't know, Dani Alves, and then someone might just go straight for like a Lucio or something like that. So defenders were never in order of right back, left back, centre back. It was whatever defender you wanted to get, then midfield, then strikers. And my friend used to always pick Aubameyang on the Pro Evos, yeah. And Aubameyang was devastating because his pace and his finishing was very good. So once he got in behind your defense, you know, more times than not, he was finishing it off. And I think that was Aubameyang's game in a nutshell, really. As I said, I don't think he was a highly technical player by any means, but his pace and finishing was a problem, you know. And just like what Craven Cottage just said, Aubameyang is in the good category for me. And you know what? I wouldn't disagree, because if I'm basing it on what he done for Arsenal, cannot be underestimated, because he was crucial for Arsenal, really. But I'm looking at overall the ability of the player, how I saw them really, because I saw him as an elite goal scorer, but I didn't really see him as an elite player, you know. And again, the elite category for me, you know, is a very high category, you know, and you've got to be, for me, the best of the best, you know. So again, Aubameyang for me goes into the good category. And I think, you know, I don't think there's too many people that would disagree with that, really. Yeah, clock enders. Make sure you come through at 5:30, man. We'll be discussing what we got to discuss because I know you've mentioned Andy's numbers. But listen, make sure you come through at 5:30. It's going to be a good one in regards to what we got to discuss. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for me goes into good, and then let's move on. We're going to move on to Gareth Bale. Now, Gareth Bale for me, I would say, and again, this might be interesting to see what people think here, but Gareth Bale for me is probably, I would say, he's probably the best player that the UK has produced in terms of his level, because people remember Gareth Bale for his athleticism, but Gareth Bale was a footballer first and foremost. You know, his athleticism and his pace was his bonus. But as a technical footballer, Gareth Bale was right up there. You know, I remember watching him obviously playing for Southampton, playing for Wales as a youngster, man, you know, and you could tell the running power was always there. But people forgot about just how good of a footballer he was. You know, if you think of Gareth Bale coming through at Southampton, then got the move to Tottenham, playing left back, you know, but then you could see he came alive, you know, playing as the left winger, then eventually played as a 10. And I think when they started playing him as a number 10, you could see that Gareth Bale was on his way to stardom, because it was a case of just play him in the position where you can get him the ball. And obviously, everyone remembers the way he destroyed Maicon as well in that Champions League game for Tottenham. You know, Maicon was rated as the best right back in the game at the time, and Gareth Bale basically just put his career down to being one of the worst right backs around, because Gareth Bale destroyed him over both legs. And as I said, man, that's when Gareth Bale announced himself to the world, really. And then obviously got that move to Real Madrid, some standout goals. You know, you think of the overhead kick in the Champions League final against, I think it might have been Atletico Madrid, outrageous. But for me, there's no debating where I'm going to put Gareth Bale, man, because as I said, Gareth Bale, man, is the best player I think the UK's produced. You know, people might say Wayne Rooney, you know, I know Fitz obviously is in the chat. I know Fitz is going to say Andy Cole, and I wouldn't disagree with that from something that we got to discuss anyway. But Gareth Bale, I rate him highly, man. Rate him highly. And I look at Gareth Bale as probably another Eden Hazard. These players had a lot more in the locker in terms of, you know, they love the game, but did they love it to an extent of, if you kind of look at a Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of what he's put into the game? Because I look at Gareth Bale, I look at Eden Hazard. These guys are more naturally talented than Ronaldo, but Ronaldo's work ethic, you know, is probably what kept him at the top for longer, you know. But Gareth Bale, for what he done for Tottenham, for Real Madrid, and for Wales, like the Wales national team, he was a one-man army, you know, at times, and he was instrumental in Wales getting all the way. I think it was the World Cup or the Euros semi-final. I think they got to, and he was instrumental in that. And as I said, man, Gareth Bale for me goes into elite, no problem, no problem. That brings us on to Karim Benzema. Now, one of my favorite players, and as I said, not going to waste time. He's going to go straight into elite. Now, those of you that haven't followed Benzema's career like I did, yeah. Again, Karim Benzema for me is the closest striker I've seen to R9, and there's a reason for that. You know, if you look at who Benzema's idol was, it was R9. And if you watch the young Karim Benzema at Lyon, yeah, I remember the first time I become aware of Karim Benzema was when Benzema was playing for France. I think it might have been the under-21s. And that's the team that had Samir Nasri in there as well. They also had a player called Jeremy Menez, if anyone remembers him. And they played against England. And I think England at the time had, I want to say Shola Amiobi, I think might have been there. And that's when I first became aware of Benzema. I think Benzema played for the under-21s when he was 16. And instantly I thought, this guy is different. because you look at strikers, yeah, and you think there's just something different about this guy, the way he moved. And he reminded me of a young R9. And that's when I went to go and watch more clips of Benzema and find out a bit more about him. And as I said, his idol was R9. Then again, if anyone remembers the game against Man United at Old Trafford when he destroyed Rio Ferdinand, you know, as a youngster there. And that's when you knew that this guy was genuinely going to be one of the best strikers the game has produced. Now, Man United had a chance to sign him, you know, but when Real Madrid come calling, you know, it's very hard to try and take a player off Real Madrid, as we know. And to think that Real Madrid got Karim Benzema for £30 million, yeah, is crazy in comparison to what's going on now. And Benzema going to Real Madrid, obviously, if you remember, he arrived in the same season as the likes of Kaká and Cristiano Ronaldo, I believe. And to think that Real Madrid had all three of those players in one season, like, that's some of the best business I've ever seen. You know, to get three players like that in one season just shows you what intent they're on. Now, what people need to realize about Karim Benzema, yeah, because Cristiano Ronaldo was the big name at the time, and as he was coming through, I can't remember if Benzema and Ronaldo came in the same season, or did Benzema was Benzema there a season before? I can't remember. But what I would say is that Karim Benzema had to adapt his game when Ronaldo came through. So if you remember, Karim Benzema was playing more from the left-hand side, so Ronaldo could play through the middle and get numbers. And Ronaldo getting numbers meant that he could keep relevancy with Lionel Messi, because Messi was just a clear better player. But as we know, with how football's gone now, you know, getting numbers keeps you in the conversation, you know. And the fact that Ronaldo was playing more times through the middle and Benzema was coming out left, they might have set up as Ronaldo from the left, Benzema through the middle. But during the game, you could tell that it was more Ronaldo playing through the middle. And then Karim Benzema obviously had to play second fiddle in a sense. But then you see how good Benzema was when Ronaldo actually went, in how instrumental he was in Real Madrid winning more Champions Leagues when Ronaldo went. And that just shows you how good Benzema was, which culminated in him winning the Ballon d'Or. So, again, a guy, I think he's won the Euros and a World Cup as well, I believe. So, again, Benzema's a player that's just completed football, really, when you think about it. I think he's won a Euros and a World Cup with France, multiple Champions Leagues with Real Madrid, you know, a Ballon d'Or as well. Yeah, you can't really disagree, man. And again, he's a player that passes the eye test easily. So yeah, Karim Benzema for me easily into the elite. Let's move on. Another guy for me. Again, I'm not going to dwell too much on these players because I think you guys have probably seen me speak about these players before. Sergio Busquets for me was the Lionel Messi of his position. I think it's that clear. You know, he was that good of a player, Busquets. A guy that didn't possess pace or strength, but the football brain was just ticking over time. And he's a player that you just couldn't get near for me. And again, he's one of the best players that I've seen in midfield, you know, as a DM. He was that good, you know. So there's no denying, man, that is there going to be another Sergio Busquets? Not for me. I think the closest player to a Busquets in terms of a style of player is Rodri. But Rodri's not better than Busquets for me, because Rodri for me is a more physical Busquets, you know. But Busquets for me was just silky, man. Some of the touches, the skill, yeah, it was just ridiculous, man. But yeah, as I said, man, he's definitely up there in terms of elite for me. There's no question about it. Next player for me is Casemiro, and I'm gonna put Casemiro into world class. Now, the reason why Casemiro for me goes into world class is because, yeah, listen, Craven, man, Verratti, one of my favorite players, Marco Verratti, you know, and this is why I just can't rate too many. I just can't rate too many of these midfielders now, which is why when I talk about Pedri, Vitinha, Caicedo, you know, those three there for me, and Frankie de Jong I put in there as well, but he's been out injured. those guys there for me are like the elite midfielders right now in the game, you know. And the reason I say that is because when I look at players like Busquets and Verratti, you know, that's the level. So, as I said, man, Verratti was ridiculous, ridiculous player. You know, again, one of my favorite players to watch as well at PSG. Even before that, he was at in Italy with, I can't remember the team's name now. Not Brescia. Can't actually remember the name, but top player, man. But yeah, Casemiro for me goes into world class. I think Casemiro, as a footballer, in terms of the elite level, I don't think he was an elite level footballer. But what I like about Casemiro is the winning mentality. You know, he was fundamental into how Real Madrid, you know, how their midfielders worked with himself, Toni Kroos, and Luka Modric. You know, you think of Modric and Toni Kroos picking up the ball from deep, and obviously having that protection behind him of Casemiro. And then what's good about Casemiro is that when he went to Man United, there's no one in their wildest dreams that would have thought Casemiro would have been a goal threat from midfield, you know. And as I said, man, what a player Casemiro was, you know. As I said, not one of the elite footballers in terms of technique, touch, you know, press resistant, etc. But in terms of his mentality, what he's won, I mean, in the air, he's ridiculous in the air in both boxes. Yeah, he's in the world-class category for me, for sure. And I would love Man United to give him a new contract or to extend his stay for less money if it could be done. But obviously, I think it's obvious that he's going to be going at the end of the season. So, is what it is, man. Is what it is. Moving on to Iker Casillas. Now, this might shock some people, yeah, but I'm going to put Casillas into very good. Now, the reason he's very good for me is because I think Casillas was somewhat overrated a little bit. You know, I think, you know, he was in goal for Real Madrid for so many years. And again, I do think Casillas was a good goalkeeper. But when I look at goalkeepers like the Manuel Neuers, the Thibaut Courtois, the Donnarummas, the Ter Stegens, you know, Alisson, if you want to throw him in there as well, and loads of other goalkeepers, yeah, I don't think Casillas was that level personally. And I know Fitz is saying Gav's lost his mind. You know what? I had a feeling, yeah. I had a feeling. And oh, you think he might be good, yeah? Okay. Yeah, I think he was just above good, if I'm honest. I think very good. I don't think. Yeah, I think good is the Aubameyangs of what he produced in his time. I think the fact that Casillas was part of the successful Real Madrid team. Well, in actual fact, I'll take that back. I don't think the Galacticos era, I don't think he was that successful actually, because I can't remember how many league titles they actually won. But for Spain, I think he was very good. But you know, when you're in goal for Real Madrid really regularly, your Spain position is more or less secured, because that's how it works really in terms of the goalkeepers there back then. But there, David Bentley, yeah, trust me, man, don't worry. But yeah, no, I think very good for Casillas is more than enough, man. I think good might be a bit harsh, if I'm honest with you, because you'll see where I'm going with this in the end. Because I don't know if there's going to be too many players in the good category, you know, and that's nothing against Aubameyang, but as I said, man, I purely look at the level of footballer, really, you know. But again, Casillas for me, I don't think was as good as what was made out to be. But again, people might think he's a lot better. People might think he's worse, but I just don't think he was that level. Says Fabregas. Now, this is a tough one because Fabregas, for me, in terms of Premier League midfielders, he's one of the best. He is one of the best. And if you think when he went to Barcelona, you know, playing as the false nine, I don't think anyone had that on the cards that he'd be playing as a false nine for club and country. And what that speaks volumes of, yeah, that speaks volumes of says Fabregas' intelligence for me. You know, to play as a central midfielder for so many years and then adapt your game to playing as a false nine for Barcelona and for Spain. Yeah, don't worry. I will fix the fits in a minute. Yeah, don't worry, bro. So yeah, as I said, man, I think Cesc Fabregas for me was highly intelligent, man. And as I said, when people talk about the best midfielders playing the Premier League, he's in the top 5 for me. He is. He's in the top 5. I think he was that good for Fabregas, and I think his name often gets overlooked. You know, his time at Barcelona probably didn't go the way that he expected. Obviously, going back home, but it's not really a surprise when you've got Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta ahead of you in the pecking order. But in terms of Cesc Fabregas's level, man, his level cannot be denied. You know, produced for Chelsea as well when he left Barcelona, and captain for Arsenal. You know, produced for them. Wherever he went, he produced, club and country. You know, and I'm torn between world class and elite for me, because the elite level is players for me that go into a world 11, no dispute. I'm torn between world class and elite, because in terms of his touch, his technique, his passing, it was an elite level. But I'm just trying to think. It's difficult. It's difficult. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be brave, yeah? I'm going to put Cesc Fabregas into world class. I'm going to put him into world class, but he's a player for me that could easily be an elite. But again, the level is tough. Let me go back onto the questions. Big up yourselves, guys. Make sure we're smashing the likes as well. To go through some of your comments. Let's see. Craven says Bale and Di Maria are in the same tier for me. I hear it. Let's see if is Di Maria actually on there. I can't actually see if Di Maria's on there. Yeah, listen, let's see, man. Let's see. I think again, this is a difficult list to kind of compile for me, because there's some top players, and how you get these players into different tiers is what it's about, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's difficult, but we'll see. Yeah, listen, all the talk about a certain somebody, yeah, we're gonna do at 5:30, because we're gonna save that for then. I don't really want to dominate the conversation with that, because that's what we're gonna be talking about come 5:30 with a few other things as well. Hey, Gav, I've got beef with you. 2 words, well, 3. David effing Bentley. Hey, listen, David Bentley was a very good player, man. He was a very good player. Like, if you remember, David Bentley was supposed to be the heir to David Beckham's throne. You know, again, he wasn't David Beckham, but they were trying to push him in that direction. And obviously, again, I know why Clockenders is a bit salty over David Bentley, because he went to their rivals in Tottenham. But if you compare players now, you can't really be saying Bentley is a bad player, because Bentley was a technical midfielder, right midfielder, could play inside as well, and again, didn't really have the career that many predicted. But David Bentley was still a decent player, man. He was. Yeah, listen, second coming of Beckham. They were trying to put that out there, you know, with the side parting, the slick back hair. You know what I mean? The way that he used to portray himself as well. They were trying to make him as the next Beckham, but obviously he failed at that. You know what I mean? You know, but he was still a good player, man. You know, I think he scored against Arsenal as well, if I remember. Listen, let's not hate on Bentley, man. Come on, Bentley was decent. All right, Clockenders, listen, I was a serious player, man. I should have been professional, man. Like, but certain things didn't work out in my favor, you know. But as I said, man, yeah, I should have made it, man. As I said, but yeah, that's a chat for another day, I would say, you know. Gav, I'm hearing Bentley talk. Casillas was at least world class. Yeah, but listen, if David Bentley was in this conversation, he wouldn't be in the good tier for me. He'd be in decent, because I'm looking at his ability. His ability was good, but if you're looking at the whole picture, he would be in decent. He wouldn't be above Aubameyang for me. Of course not, you know. But if you're comparing him to Casillas, then again, one's a keeper, so I don't know how we're gonna do that, but you know. Casillas was at Madrid forever, bro. Spain was elite those times. He won the lot, bro. Casillas is world class. Yeah, Fitz, listen. I don't deny that, yeah, that he won a lot with Madrid. But what I would say, yeah, have a check on how many league titles that Casillas actually won for Madrid with the Galacticos, because I don't think he won a lot. I know he won a Champions League, of course, but I'm looking at him as the goalkeeper. I don't think he was the level that many thought he was. I just think he capitalized on the fact that he come through the system at Real Madrid, you know, so there's an affinity there already. And he was part of, you know, great teams, really. But as an actual keeper, I'm not so sure he was that great, if I'm honest, you know. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't. I mean, world class, I don't know, man. I think very good. Very good, I think, is, yeah, very good to world class, but I can't put him in world class. I'll be honest. I can't do that, man. Um, yeah, big up, man. Big up yourself. I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce the name, but big up, man. Okay, now you're talking sense, but the Casillas wasn't world class talk is as wild as Bentley being the next Bex to me. Yeah, but Fitz, I never said Bentley was the next Bex. I said that's what the media tried to make him out to be. The media were trying to push Bentley to be the next Beckham when we knew he wasn't that. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I can't put Casillas in world class. I can't do it, man. Yeah, listen, don't worry. We're gonna get on to Victor Valdez as well, because I think he's someone that might be there as well. But if I had to pick one between Casillas or Valdez, Casillas or Valdez, I'd probably say Casillas, because he was left-footed goalkeepers. I like left-footed goalkeepers, so I'd probably say Casillas, yeah. And obviously Casillas was number one for Spain, and Valdez was the backup, really. If you remember Santiago Canizares as well, ex-Valencia goalkeeper. But yeah, I'd probably say Casillas over Valdez. But is there really that much in it? I'm not too sure. Yeah, listen, if yeah, listen, I'll say it now. I'd put Valdez in very good as well. Yeah, he's not Valdez wouldn't go in world class, because the level that I'm putting players in these tiers, yeah, is difficult. So I'm being very, very, very critical on these players. You know what I mean? And how I see them. R9 tore you a new one. Crazy, crazy footballer. Personally, he's in my top 2 all time. Wow, he actually had it all. Yeah, but Clockenders, I'm gonna take that comment as with a pinch of salt, because remember, you told us that Bukayo Saka was top 10 in the world. Don't think I've forgotten that, yeah. So that one is never gonna leave you, by the way, yeah. So when you're talking about R9, yeah, man, I'm taking that with a pinch of salt there, man. Gav, have you already done a 2000 to 2010 list? I don't think so, but I'll probably do that one as my next one. So what I'll do, yeah, I'm gonna pin this, yeah, so I can remember. Yeah, I'll probably the next one I'll probably do 2000 to 2010. And and put out, because obviously there's other ones coming up as well that I'd like to react to. But yeah, 2000 and 2010. I'll look at doing that one next. 100%. Big up yourself. Anyway, let's get back on to the players. Next player we're going to talk about is Thibaut Courtois, our first entry for a goalkeeper into elite. Now, Thibaut Courtois, for me, I rate highly, yeah, because I remember when he first came through, you know, they were talking about him as being the best goalkeeper in the world from early. Now, if anyone remembers Thibaut Courtois, when he was signed from Chelsea, when he was signed, I believe he's at Genk. He was at Genk where Chelsea signed him. Yeah. And if you remember, he spent 2 seasons on loan at Atletico Madrid. Now, when you actually think about it, yeah, these things are quite unheard of, because to have a goalkeeper that really was arguably inside at his time at Atletico Madrid, top 3 in the world, but he's on loan at Atletico Madrid, is kind of unheard of. I've never really heard of a goalkeeper or a top player that is one of the best in the world already playing on loan. Like, it's quite unheard of, yeah. And he was instrumental for Atletico Madrid. I can't remember what Atletico Madrid done at their time when Courtois was in goal, but you could see that he was a world-class goalkeeper in the making. And Atletico had him for 2 seasons on loan. And then when he went to Chelsea, as we know, Petr Cech was there, but he came in as the way of easing Petr Cech out. And obviously he was great in goal for Chelsea, man. And as I said, I like left-footed goalkeepers. And to think that at Chelsea, man, you've got arguably the best keeper in the league at the time, I would say. And then I don't think no one could envision I don't think no one saw Courtois going to Real Madrid or leaving Chelsea, should I say. And has he gone into another level at Real Madrid? I mean, he has suffered with injuries as well, but he's just an absolute great goalkeeper, man. Like, wherever he's been, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Belgium, like, he's just performed to a certain level, a very high level. You know, great in his box, you know, commanding from corners, great shot stopper. You know, his kicking's very good as well. He is just what you call an elite goalkeeper. Like, I look at, like, again, goalkeeping ain't my strong point, yeah, but from what I see of him, his command of his area as well, and his calmness, like, yeah, he's just a great goalkeeper, man. There's no debate on Thibaut Courtois for me, man. He's elite for me. Like, there's no doubting he's an elite goalkeeper. I think the one blemish that you might look at Courtois is that the nonsense, the madness that he had with Kevin De Bruyne. Didn't he take Kevin De Bruyne's girl or something like that? I can't remember. You know, madness. But in terms of his goalkeeping and what he's done, what he's won, yeah, elite for me, man. No doubt. No doubt is he elite. If Casillas is very good, I think elite should only consist of Buffon, Khan, Schmeichel, world-class Czech, Van der Sar, Courtois. Yeah, to be fair, Fitz, man, I hear it. I do actually hear it, man. I do actually hear it, because Buffon, Khan, Schmeichel, yeah, they are elite keepers. There's no denying that. But I think looking at the list that we've got here, you know, I have to put Courtois in elite, you know. And do I think Courtois was better than Czech and Van der Sar? Yeah, I think it's fair to say they're all at the same level, but they're all them for me are all better than Iker Casillas for me, you know. But I hear it, man. But yeah, I'm happy with putting Courtois for me in elite. I think he's definitely is an elite goalkeeper, no doubt. Now, let's move on, yeah. And I think this one is going to garner a lot of attention, dissatisfaction, yeah. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the most famous footballers that there's been, on a name on everyone's lips. I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to put him straight into world class. Now, I think this might gather a lot of conversation. Yeah. So I'm going to wait for the comments, sip on my coffee, and see what you guys think. Cristiano Ronaldo for me will go into world class. I want to see what you guys think. Nah, listen, clock enders, bro. I don't want Bruno and I don't want Odegaard. We're fine, man. We're fine, thanks. Get rid of Bruno and Odegaard can stay at you, man. I like Odegaard, the footballer, but we've got players there, man, that can play that 10 role. Or we can play a free midfield if we go and get the midfielders sorted. But yeah, so Cristiano Ronaldo goes into world class for me. And I'll tell you why, yeah. If we're looking at Ronaldo, you know, for what he's done in the game, the work ethic he's put in, the trophies he's won, I think for me, there's no denying, man, that he has had one of the most successful careers that any footballer could hope for. Yeah. But because if I look at Dani Alves, Gareth Bale, Karim Benzema, Sergio Busquets, and obviously Courtois as a keeper, yeah, them guys for me are all more naturally gifted as footballers than Ronaldo. And that isn't to say that Ronaldo wasn't a gifted footballer, but I think a lot of Ronaldo's his ability, well, put it this way, the makeup of Ronaldo, yeah, a lot of it was his physicality in terms of his pace. And obviously you can see the way he worked on his physique as well. But I look at Benzema, Dani Alves, Gareth Bale, and Busquets. These guys were just footballers first and foremost. A lot of Ronaldo's game was a lot of the athleticism, how I like to put it, because Ronaldo getting older, yeah, the only thing you can point to so Ronaldo stays relevant for me is his goal scoring, and this is where, you know, a lot of people get confused. Whereas if you look at someone like Messi, yeah, Messi will play the same way that he's always played. Yeah, the physicality in terms of his pace, his change of pace is going to go as he gets older. But what do we point to first and foremost is his ability on the ball. And that's where I look at Ronaldo, because Ronaldo has had a great career. He's still going strong, you would say, at the age of what, 41, you believe? But if we're being honest, yeah, Ronaldo is still relevant in his latter years because it's all about numbers for him. And I've never looked at numbers as a way to judge a player. I preferred Ronaldo when he was first at Man United, you know, when he was an actual winger that was there to, you know, create. And obviously he did obviously, you know, take his game on to another level when he became that guy for United. And again, which culminated in him winning the Ballon d'Or, and rightfully so. But as I said, I've never looked at a player scoring mad amount of goals as a reason for them to be in the conversation, you know, to be the absolute best for me. I've never looked at it, yeah. As I said, Ronaldo's been a great player. He's been a great servant to the game, you would probably say. But my level and what I look for in terms of the elite footballer is based on just being an absolute crazy footballer, you know, in terms of there's no question, you know. As I said, a lot of people would put Ronaldo in elite, you know, for reasons that I can see the argument. But for me, in terms of an absolute footballer, he goes into world class for me. And again, the world class is still a high level, by the way, but the elite is just a different level for me. So Cristiano Ronaldo for me goes into world class, and I'm happy with that one. Again, I know a few of you will disagree, but is what it is. Kevin De Bruyne. Again, Kevin De Bruyne for me goes into world class, you know, and what's happened there? Guys, bear me 1 minute. I don't know what's happened there. There we go. Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne for me goes into world class for me. And again, a lot of people might think, why is De Bruyne, why is Ronaldo not in elite? And what I would say, yeah, is again, these are two players that, especially in English football, are hyped to a level, that I just don't believe they're on. Again, they were two great players in the Premier League, yeah, but can we actually say that they're two of the best that the game has seen or the Premier League has seen? I think what that shows you, yeah, is either a bias or it's favoritism for me. Because when I mention certain other players, yeah, certain other players are always overlooked for other than these players. And big up to Foxy Danny says Del Piero. Yeah, Del Piero was a top player. Again, make sure you check out the greats of the game, because I've done a discussion on Del Piero as well. What a player he was. But yeah, so Kevin De Bruyne, his time at Man City, he was instrumental in terms of what Man City done. Won numerous titles, Champions League. I think he won as well. But for me, Kevin De Bruyne was a top player. But again, when I'm comparing the Kevin De Bruyne to an Iniesta, to players like that, to Busquets in the midfield, to a Paul Pogba, there's a reason why I picked these players above Kevin De Bruyne. And that's because these players had something different. I think Kevin De Bruyne's game, a lot of it was, his passing was very good off both feet, don't get me wrong. But I look at Kevin De Bruyne in tight spaces. He wasn't that type of player. He was Kevin De Bruyne. And let's not forget as well, De Bruyne was a wide player coming through at Genk. He played out wide, and he was a David Beckham playing from central in terms of his delivery. That's what I would say. But again, I look at players being press resistant. De Bruyne wasn't press resistant. I think De Bruyne relied a lot on space, hitting space. And I look at De Bruyne as an elite version of Bruno Fernandes. I think if you look at De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes, they're very similar in terms of how they play the game. Both players, like to hit the ball into space, but De Bruyne is a more refined version than Bruno, and players like that, they have their place in football, but when they're getting talked about as being an absolute world beaters, that's not how I see the game, because I've never seen players that are meant to be supposed players that play in number 10 be very happy at turning the ball over. I've never seen it. You go through all the number 10s from the past year, the Del Pieros, as Danny's mentioned, the Bergkamps, the Ronaldinhos, the Zidanes, the Pablo Aymars, the Riquelmes, the Rivaldos. There's so many more players, yeah? These guys were never adept at losing the ball. And now you look at football, yeah? Football now is been accepted where players can lose the ball because fans or pundits or the media will make you believe that they're trying to play the killer pass. You know what I mean? So losing the ball by trying to attempt things, Messi's another one. So losing the ball has now become satisfactory in people's minds. And if you look at KDB and Bruno Fernandes, these guys are praised because they're trying things. You see what I mean? And let's get it right. De Bruyne was a very good player, but the elite level for me is the best of the best, really, in their positions. And that's why I've put Ronaldo and even De Bruyne in world class. And again, the world class level is a high level, but not elite for me. Let's move on. Angel Di Maria. Again, I'm going to put Di Maria in the world class category. I think Di Maria, for me, I think Di Maria was underrated personally. I think his time at Man United didn't go well. He's probably scored one of the best goals that I've seen that a Man United player scored, the goal that he scored against Leicester. with the little dink. You know, to do that on the run, you know, working in a short space is not easy to go and do. And as I said, man, he's a top player. He's a top player, man. Di Maria. I think he had his best period for me, I would say, at Real Madrid. You know, I wouldn't say he had his best period. I mean, PSG was good, but I think Real Madrid is where, you know, he put himself on the map, really. Benfica, he was very good as well. And as I said, man, I think he's definitely someone for me that isn't spoken about enough, you know, in terms of, look at the amount of trophies he's won as well. When I done the stream the other day, when there was 25 players in terms of that were deemed to be overrated, you know, you look at Di Maria. Out of that list, he's the one that won the most trophies. You know, 38 he won, 38 trophies. You know, and he was a top player, Angel Di Maria. But I think a lot of people overlook him, maybe because it's Manchester United that didn't go as well as it should have. You know, but I think in terms of his ability, in terms of his trophies he's won and what he done at Real Madrid, you know, he was instrumental in Real Madrid winning that Champions League against Atletico. You know, I think Ronaldo and Bale will probably get the hype, will probably get the accolades, but Di Maria was probably arguably man the match in that final. You know, but top player, man. I'll put him in the world class category. Diego Godin. Now again, Diego Godin, many people probably won't know who he is, you know, but Godin, for me, I'm gonna put him into the good category, you know. And the reason he goes into the good category for me is because in terms of big up to Titanium as well, in terms of Godin the player, again, he wasn't a great footballer, but in terms of his leadership, his mentality, you know, he was crucial for Atletico Madrid in when they were winning when they won La Liga and went on their Champions League runs as well. I think he was a proper leader, a proper winner as well. And I know Titanium is saying good, very good. I'm going to put him in good because it's difficult, because he could go into very good, but I think good is probably not harsh to say, because I think the level for me is high. And Aubameyang, for what he done for Arsenal, for Dortmund, you know, even for Gabon as well. Yeah, I'd say good. I think Godin for me, when I look at the elite defenders, yeah, as I say, man, there's well, obviously I don't want to give it away, innit? And you'll see where I'm going with this anyway in the end. But yeah, I'm happy to put Godin at centre-back, in the good category. Let's move it on anyway. Antoine Griezmann. Antoine Griezmann for me, yeah, is going to go into world class. And again, an intelligent player. You know, you look at what he done for France. Obviously, he's retired from international football now. So that generation of them players are all gone. Obviously, he's leaving Atletico Madrid as well come the end of the season to go and play in America. But for me, Griezmann for me was, yeah, he was class, man. Class. I think when he went to Barcelona, yeah, although on paper it's a good move for his career and what he's going to go and play with, but it was the wrong move for him, because when you're left-footed and you play as like a number 10, you don't go to Barcelona when Messi's there, because the team is built around Messi. And the fact that he was left-footed didn't make sense, you know, because he played out of position. You know, there was times he played on the left-hand side. There was times he played through the middle. But Griezmann's one of them players, yeah, that he needed to be the centerpiece, as he was for France, as he was for Atletico Madrid. But him making the move to Barcelona, he was obviously going to play second fiddle to Messi. And again, that's not because Griezmann wasn't world class, but Messi's he's just something else, you know what I mean? And the team was built around Messi, so you can't have Messi and Griezmann both thriving, you know. And Griezmann, to be honest with you, should have known that for the betterment of his career. And obviously, when he left Barcelona, you know, he went back to Atletico, I think. Yeah, I think he did went back to Atletico. And obviously, as I said, man, he was a top player, man. Technical, you know, scored goals, popped up in big moments as well, you know. And as I said, the elite level is a difficult level to get into. But there's no denying, man, he was world class, Antoine Griezmann. And you know what frustrates me, yeah, is that look at the level of players that there was in comparison to what we're seeing now. We're seeing power and pace merchants dominate the game in preference of proper talent. Because I'm looking at these players that I've got in this list right now, and what tier I've put them in, like, and it's actually sad, yeah, to see that you're not really getting these players come through, which is why I love the likes of Yamal and Pedri, players like that, Vitinha's, just keeping the game alive still, you know, because what we're seeing now is few and far between, man, from these kind of player. Yeah, listen, Pirlo, now we're talking. Andrea Pirlo. What a player Pirlo was, man. Yeah, Greenwood and Cobby. Yeah, listen, we hear it, man. We hear it. Let's move it on anyway. Keep your questions and comments coming through. I will get back. Eden Hazard, one of my favorite players. Now, Hazard for me is going straight into elite, you know, and I'll tell you why he goes into elite for me, yeah, because I think people might think world class. I'll tell you why he's elite, because if we're ignoring his time at Real Madrid, because Hazard going to Real Madrid, Hazard wasn't the Hazard that he was at Chelsea, because this is a player that suffered a lot of injuries. You know, if you remember as well, he had put a lot of weight on as well. And he wasn't nowhere near the player that he was at Chelsea. And the Real Madrid move, it was sad, because it's like that wasn't Hazard. You know what I mean? I think he hardly played for them as well. And Real Madrid bought him because they just knew the level that he was. But I remember that I'm looking at his time, even when he was at Lille in France. Then he made the move to Chelsea. And how highly I rate Eden Hazard, yeah. And this is why, yeah, guys, yeah. When I see the list the other day of the greatest forwards to play in the Premier League, yeah, you have to ask yourself, yeah. It was fan voted, by the way, yeah. But you have to ask yourself, this is why you don't listen to Sky Sports in what narratives they're trying to push. Because the very fact here that you had Mo Salah in second place, there was no Eden Hazard on the list, there was no Andy Cole on the list, it tells you everything you need to know. Because there's no one that can make me think, yeah, that Mo Salah was better than Eden Hazard because of numbers. No one can make me think differently. Nowhere near it, yeah. And oh look, you know what's on my screen now? David Bentley's on my screen right now on Sky Sports. Big up Clockenders. David Bentley's on the screen right now, man, on Sky Sports. Speaking of the devil. But as I said, man, Eden Hazard for me is when I talk about the best ever players to play in the Premier League, Eden Hazard is in my top 3. He's in my top 3 because he was that good, Hazard. He was a genuine Ballon d'Or winner. But again, he's another player that came up against, like, if you look at Messi and Ronaldo dominating it, yeah, and Neymar would have got it if it wasn't for the popularity factor, yeah. Hazard was that level. I don't think Hazard was better than Neymar, because Neymar was a freak, really. But Hazard was up there with what he was doing in the Premier League. He was genuinely an elite player. He was one of the best players in the world when he was at Chelsea, no doubt in my mind. As I said, when people mention the best ever players to play in the Premier League, Thierry Henry's name comes up, Ronaldo's name comes up, Hazard's name's in there for me, easily, easily. And as I said, man, he's an elite player for me. No, like, there's no question about it. No question about it. Right, let me go through your comments quickly. You can't debate football with people who bring up numbers. Big up to Titanium, 100%. 100%. Like, whenever someone brings up numbers in a conversation to defend the player, what that usually means, yeah, is that the player is not as good as what you think they are. Because when you ask me about any player, I'm never going to bring up numbers to you. I'm going to tell you what they were good at. And then if you want to talk about numbers after, we can look at the numbers. But all these players that are in the elite category, yeah, not one of them really had serious numbers. Like, when I'm talking about serious numbers, you look at the Erling Haalands, you look at the Mo Salahs, the Ronaldos, them kind of players, yeah. Them guys all had serious numbers. Not one of them's a better footballer than Karim Benzema. Not one of them. So that's how I see it, Pep Root and Grealish, I agree. Hazard, one of my favorites to watch. He wins at Chelsea. Same as Suarez, Liverpool. I agree. And I have Luis Suarez and Eden Hazard, for me, as two of the best players to play in the Premier League. For me, I've always said Henry, but Hazard and Suarez are up there with me, and then you've got people put Ronaldo in there, obviously people put Rooney in there as well and other players, but Eden Hazard and Luis Suarez for me have to be up there as two of the best players to ever play in the Premier League. Obviously Scholes as well. It's difficult, but I rated Hazard and what Suarez done in that season for Liverpool, even though he was a scumbag, but you can't disagree with what they done, man, in them seasons. Right, moving on. We're going to go on to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now, this is a difficult one, yeah, because I liken this to... Yeah, I'm likening it to the Cesc Fabregas, Ronaldo situation, or De Bruyne, if you want to put him in there, and Griezmann. But I'm going to put Ibra into world class. But he's someone that could be elite as well. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to put Ibra into elite. Yeah. Now, this is a guy, yeah, that in terms of wherever he went, he won trophies. I mean, a player that tall, yeah, shouldn't have the feet that he had, and you look at the athleticism as well. Obviously, if you guys forgot, he's very skilled, I think, in jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or something like that. He's got that background about him. And if you look at the kind of things that those guys do, yeah, when Ibra scores the kind of goals that he does, that's off the back of, the taekwondo or the jiu-jitsu that he does. A lot of that comes from that, being able to lift your leg high, being in moments where, you have to think quick on the spot and then produce an athleticism to kind of score some of the goals that he scored. I mean, look at the goal he scored against England. That tells you all you need to know, really, and as I said, man, he was a leader. He struck fear into any defender he went up against. He's a striker that had no weaknesses. I mean, it never worked out at Barcelona the way it should, for obvious reason. Pep wanted to build around Messi, and you can see why. And Ibra's kind of personality, he wanted to be the big name. But when Messi's there, you're gonna have to try and you have to kind of take second place to Messi, because Messi's just done what he done, really, innit? But Ibrahimovic, for me, man, for club and country, was outrageous, man. And as I said, he speaks for himself. Some of the goals he scored, the trophies he won. I don't believe he won a Champions League, funny enough, actually, but instrumental in any team he played for. you know. And as I said, man, black belt in taekwondo. Big up to Titanium. There you go, black belt in taekwondo. And there's a reason why he scored some of those acrobatic goals that he scored. It's not by mistake, put it that way, you know. But as I said, man, he's someone for me that can go into world class or elite, and I put him in elite for me. You know, he's a top player, man. Moving on. One of my favorite players, and we're not going to waste time. He goes straight into elite. And how I look at Andres Iniesta is how I look at Sergio Busquets. Those two players there, were the Lionel Messi of their positions. It's that simple. To think that Barcelona, had Busquets, Iniesta, and Messi all in one team together is ridiculous, really, because you've got three of the best players in their positions in the world. You know, it's just ridiculous. Iniesta, for me, was just an elite footballer. Like, he was so good, that people don't even realize, that, like, people don't even realize, how good he was. Because when we, like, the way I look at it like this, Luka Modric won a Ballon d'Or. Iniesta should have won one by that account. And you have to ask yourself, why is it that Iniesta didn't win the Ballon d'Or? You know, that's the question, because he was that good. And I think the reason why Iniesta didn't win one is because not only was he in the same team as Messi and Neymar, and it meant that if Barca were doing well, then it means Messi's doing well. And Messi obviously was the elite player. But then you look at the fact that he scored the winning goal in the World Cup as well. The guy was just outrageous. This is a guy as well, people don't actually realize this. Iniesta averaged like 6 goals a season, but you wouldn't have thought that. And this is why I can't listen to the whole GA argument, because when you look at players like Iniesta, we don't look at GA. We just look at just how good these players were. And Iniesta, for me, is one of the best midfielders to play the game. He was that good, but didn't get mad numbers, you know. But popped up when he needed to score important goals. If you remember the goal against Chelsea in the Champions League, you know, the right foot drive into the top corner. The guy was unreal, man. And as I said, him and Busquets are the Messi of their era, easily. You know, I don't think it's even close. Do you know what? Great question. Craven Cottage says, do you think Kagawa was a better 10 than Bruno for Man United? And you know what? I'm glad you've asked this question, because the majority of people will tell you Bruno's been better, But what people don't actually realize, is that Bruno Fernandes is not even a number 10. He's a number 8. He just plays in the number 10 position. But if you look at his average position on the pitch, he plays as a support striker. He's not a number 10. He just goes where he can get majority of the ball or get numbers. And again, if you're someone that actually studies the game properly, you will see that he's playing as a support striker. Look at where he always ends up on the pitch, where he's running to try and track the goalkeeper down. He's not playing as a number 10, And look at Kagawa's level in terms of his technical ability for when he played for Borussia Dortmund as well, behind Lewandowski. That's what you call a number 10. Someone that can knit the midfield and the attack together. You know, and if you remember, Kagawa was signed to replace Rooney, if you remember. But again, Kagawa didn't really get given the game time that he deserved. You know, I think Van Gaal actually chose to keep Juan Mata as well. But if you was to ask me who would I prefer, Kagawa or Bruno Fernandes as a 10, I'm picking Kagawa all day long, because this will tell you that I don't care about the numbers that Bruno's getting. Bruno gets numbers to the detriment of the team. Kagawa would get assists, and chipping with numbers for the betterment of the team. And that's what people fail to realize. You know, Kagawa would get the better out of the striker, whereas Bruno Fernandes gets the betterment out of himself. Again, people don't want to have this conversation, but I'm willing to. So Kagawa for me was 10 times better as a number 10 than Bruno. 100 times better. And again, Bruno's not playing as a 10. He's playing support striker, which is why if we want to get better out of the players that we have already, yeah, and get some proper midfielders in, you've got to move this guy on. It's just that simple. You know what I mean? Yeah, we kept playing Kagawa in the wrong position. Again, just like Juan Mata was a number 10. Played him on the right-hand side because he's left-footed to invert. Kagawa didn't play, or he played him on the left-hand side to accommodate an aging Rooney. Again, too much nonsense, man, that this club was doing, unfortunately. But yeah, Andres Iniesta for me, elite, no doubt. Tony Cruz goes into world class for me. Now, Tony Cruz formed that midfield with Modric and Casemiro, man. And what I liked about Tony Cruz was how he dictated the tempo of a game. You know, you don't really get too many players like that, you know, and his composure on the ball, his touch, his technique, his passing was ridiculous. And I think what people don't actually realize, yeah, is that Tony Cruz was actually a number 10. When he came through at Bayern Munich, yeah, he was actually a number 10. You know, and obviously he dropped slightly deeper to, you know, make use of his passing ability from deep. And then at Bayern Munich, he was class. Real Madrid, he went to another level. You know, for Germany, he was very good as well. Again, man, these guys are just genuine top players, man. Again, I put him in world class because if I'm looking at midfielders that are in the elite, I'm looking at Busquets and Iniesta. As I said, man, those two are the best of the best for me. And it's a difficult list to get into. But him being in world class, as I said, man, is no slight on Tony Cruz, man, because he was a top player. But I think I have to put him into world class for that reason, man. But what a player he was. Sergio Kun Aguero. One of my favorite strikers to watch in the Premier League. You know, again, I'm putting him into world class. Aguero was devastating. And, you know, I'm bringing it back to when I used to play the Football Manager games, you know. And Football Manager, for me, you know, was an eye-opener for a lot of these players. And I remember signing a Sergio Aguero when he was playing for Independiente in Argentina. And he was playing for them when he was 15. I remember when I used to be Man United, I used to sign him straight away. And again, you know, he's only 15 with his mullet he used to have as well, if anyone remembers. And when I used to sign him, even like the little bench appearances at 15 years of age, the guy was just putting in performances. And again, when he went to Atletico Madrid, devastating finisher. And you can see the potential there. And Atletico Madrid, they always produce strikers. Aguero, Torres, Radamel Falcao, Forlan was there. I think Jackson Martinez was there as well. Pretty sure there was someone else there as well. Pretty sure there was someone else. Obviously, they got Alvarez there now as well. Atletico Madrid always have some top strikers, man. They always do. And Aguero was definitely one of them. When he went to Man City, another level, man. Another level. He was absolute another level. As I said, man, instrumental when Man City winning their first Premier League title with the help of Balotelli. But Aguero speaks for himself. When I look at the top strikers to ever play in the Premier League, he's up there for sure. You know what I mean? And this is why when I see that list on Sky Sports the other day, and there was no Aguero, no Hazard, no Andy Cole, and again they're mentioning forwards, not just strikers, forwards. Again, you have to ask yourself the question, yeah, that there's certain narratives that are trying to be pushed. Costa as well, big up to Craven Cottage. Diego Costa is another one. There's certain narratives that are trying to be pushed, yeah, where, as I said, man, yeah, I'm someone that's just not going to be blinded. That's just not going to be blinded into how I saw certain players. And again, I hope everyone as well is kind of on the same page, really, because as I said, man, like some of these players, man, that weren't included in that list is criminal. But yeah, Aguero for me, one of my favorite players. You know what I mean? Clinical, low center of gravity. You know, one of Man City's all-time greatest players. You know, in the top three for me. As I said, man, top player, no doubting. Moving on, Philip Lahm. Now, Philip Lahm for me, yeah, is elite. And I think the majority of the chat would agree with that as well. Now, Philip Lahm was actually a right back, but he was so comfortable, you know, playing as a left back for the majority of his career. You look at that for Bayern Munich, for Germany as well. And I look at both-footed fullbacks, yeah. And you look at both-footed fullbacks. The only both-footed fullbacks that is on his level is someone like Dennis Irwin. Dennis Irwin's the only one that I can think of that was a right back playing left back that was right-footed. You got Gianluca Zambrotta as well, formerly of Barcelona and Juventus. But Zambrotta wasn't Dennis Irwin or Philip Lahm. And again, Philip Lahm was that intelligent. If you remember when Pep had him at Bayern Munich, played him in midfield, it looked like Lahm had been playing there for years. But yeah, listen, Philip Lahm, man, what a player he was, man. Up and down as a fullback, you know, great in possession. Yeah, man, just like the guy was just when you just watch some players, yeah, a lot of these players as well that are in the elite, it's the eye test. You know, just go and watch these players in their prime, man, and you just see how good they were. And this is why I'm very critical of the level right now, because I look at the Premier League, for instance, yeah, and there's probably like you can count on one hand any of these players that can chat to any of these players from years gone by. You know what I mean? It's just the level was so high back then. And Philip Lahm was, as I said, Philip Lahm speaks for himself. You know what I mean? It's a disservice, really, for me talking about him, unless you go and watch him, because he was just that good. You know, captain for club and country, you know, hardly injured, top player, man. Top player. You know, and as I said, man, I don't see a Philip Lahm right now. Dennis Irwin's the only one that comes close to a Philip Lahm type of player. You know, ridiculous. So yeah, he's definitely in the elite for me. Robert Lewandowski. I think if I've got Aguero in world class, Lewandowski goes into world class for me. Now, Lewandowski, yeah, was an elite striker, man. Obviously, he's getting old now, getting on a bit, you know, and he's not the same Lewandowski that he was, but he's definitely, for me, one of the best strikers of his generation. You know, I remember when he first came to Borussia Dortmund, you know, relatively unknown from Poland, and immediately, you know, he kind of hit the ground running, scoring goals, you know, and then obviously was a major part of them winning the Bundesliga. When he went to Bayern Munich, though, he went to another level, you know, and as you would with how dominant Bayern were. Him at Barca now, he still scores goals, but as I said, he's getting on, you know, record goal scorer for Poland as well. But at Bayern Munich, man, he was clearly the best striker in the world, you know, clearly. When it was him, Benzema, Aguero, Luis Suarez, those four were the best four strikers in the world. And I think you'd probably say that Lewandowski was just slightly ahead. He was that good, you know. But again, do I think he was elite? It's difficult. It's difficult because, as I said, the level of elite is hard to get into. And as I say, if I've got Aguero, I've got Ronaldo in the world class, I'm going to put him in there as well, no doubt. But yeah, big up to Christopher McGrath as well. So yeah, I'm putting him in the world class, man. But as I said, man, the level is so high, so high, man. And as I said, like, he goes in there. Moving on. Now, this one's so easy for me, yeah. And I've talked about him before. Nah, he's not in good. And that is Marcelo, elite. Marcelo for me, yeah, he's the best left back that I've ever seen. Best left back. People might say Paolo Maldini, but again, Maldini was a centre back that transitioned to left back, and Maldini's obviously an icon. You know what I mean? But in terms of the ability, what he's won, and just how good he was better than some of the best wingers in the game. Yeah, Marcelo was ridiculous. The guy was so talented as a left back, and I remember Marcelo coming from Fluminense to go to Real Madrid. Again, it was a shock signing. You know, didn't really hit the ground running as well. But listen, that guy developed into the best left back that I've seen, man. He was ridiculous, Marcelo. And this is why I've got him and Dani Alves as elite fullbacks, because those two, for me, you know, if you're looking at Cafu and Roberto Carlos as the standards for left and right back, both Brazilian, Dani Alves and Marcelo, they were the heir to both of their thrones. And would people say Marcelo's better than Roberto Carlos? It's debatable. For me, I think in terms of ability, I think he was. And the same with Dani Alves and Cafu. But to think that Brazil have produced 4 fullbacks like that, ridiculous, man, ridiculous. As I said, Marcelo and Dani Alves, for me, unquestionable. Those two are elite fullbacks. 2 fullbacks that will get into any team. They were that good, you know. And as I say, I spoke about Marcelo previously. So yeah, an easy one for me. Moving on, Kylian Mbappe, obviously wearing the PSG top. Mbappe for me goes into world class, you know. And what I'll say about Mbappe, yeah, I think, well, what I'll say first and foremost about Mbappe, yeah, Mbappe in terms of what he's won at a young age, you think of the World Cup, you think of league titles for PSG. He's standing in the game right now. Obviously, the goals he gets as well. I think what I would say, yeah, it's an indictment of what football is now. Because I like Mbappe for his mentality. You know, you think of the World Cup final against Argentina. To score 4 penalties in one game is ridiculous, really. It shows mentality. It shows a belief. But I think he signals what the game's become in terms of he's someone that has mad pace and athleticism, you know, and he's probably like the standard bearer for that type of player in this era of football for me. But what I would say, yeah, is he definitely goes into the world class for what he's done already at his age. And again, this is a guy that come onto the scene when he was like, for Monaco, I think, what, 16, 17? I think now he's what, 26, going on 27. I think he might be captain for France. As I said, like, he's been around for ages. And again, I don't put him in the elite bracket in terms of a footballer, but I put him in the world class in terms of what he's done in the game, you know. And he is a big game player. You can't even deny it, you know. So yeah, he's been a very good player, man, so far. But again, World Cup coming up. Let's see what he can do for France, because obviously they'll be looking to him as the spearhead for them in the World Cup this year. Let's see. Moving on. I mean, there's no argument with this guy. You know, I'm not even going to dwell on him. Arguably the greatest ever player to play the game. You know, the easiest decision that's been done so far. You know, Lionel Messi just speaks for himself. You know what I mean? Speaks for himself. This whole Messi and Ronaldo debate, it's never been a debate for me. Messi's just by far the better player, you know, and that's nothing on Ronaldo, but there's levels to football. And Messi's just Messi, innit? You know what I mean? There's no point even discussing him for what he's done. The guy's completed football, won everything that there is in the game. Ballon d'Or, World Cup, Copa America, Champions Leagues, Ligue 1, La Ligas. He's won everything. And as I said, you know, the only debate that there is to be had is Messi or Maradona. You know what I mean? And obviously, people from Maradona's era will say Maradona. People from this era will say Messi. But again, it's hard to judge because there's no denying that Maradona was playing in a different era. And as Craven Cottage just said, Messi should be in a tier above Ronaldo. Listen, he's in terms of a footballer and the weapons that he has. Yeah, there's no debate, man. There's no tier that he can be level with Ronaldo. And it's commendable for Ronaldo to stay in the conversation with Messi, but that's based off of numbers. Because if you're looking at it as the actual footballer, yeah, there's no comparison really, And as I said, man, Messi speaks for himself, man. Ridiculous footballer. Next up, we move on to Luka Modric. Now, Luka Modric for me is going to go into elite, an elite footballer. Done it for years. Again, when I look at, modern day midfielders of that generation, the top two central midfielders were Iniesta and Modric. And even though I had Iniesta ahead of Modric, there's no denying how good Modric was, man. Like, again, was at Tottenham, but for me, went to another level at Real Madrid. Instrumental in them winning so many Champions Leagues. And to think that Barca and Real Madrid had, the kind of players they had in one team. Like watching El Clasico, man, was genuinely enjoyable because there were so many bad boys on either team and the game could go either way. You look at El Clasico right now, or from years just gone by, it isn't the same. And I'm just hoping, that El Clasico can get back to the level that it was when you had Messi versus Ronaldo, Iniesta versus Modric, Busquets versus Casemiro, Xavi versus Toni Kroos, or back then, was it Rakitic or whatever? Marcelo and Dani Alves, or Marcelo versus Jordi Alba, Dani Alves versus Dani Carvajal, Ramos versus Puyol, PK versus Varane, if it's the same era. Like, when you look at El Clasico, I mean, that was the era. I just hope it gets back to that, And as I said, Luka Modric, man. Again, there's no point even talking too much about his players because, instrumental in Croatia getting all the way to the semi-final of the World Cup? Instrumental. But as a player, man, had it all. And again, a lot of these players, man, they're easy to put into a tier because the level was so high, so high. Moving on, Manuel Neuer goes into elite for me. Again, just like Thibaut Courtois, great command of the box, great distribution as well. You look at what he's won in Germany, he's won it all. Champions League, Bundesligas. Was he in goal for when Germany won the World Cup? I think he was. He's won the World Cup. But again, another top keeper. And when we look at the best keepers to play the game, he's obviously going to be up there. You know what I mean? Another keeper that is getting on a bit. And let's not forget, he come from Schalke as well and was doing things for Schalke. But again, just like Thibaut Courtois, like these are top keepers, man. So there's no debate on them. And again, another keeper that I believe was better than Iker Casillas for me. Moving on. I mean, there's no debate in this guy. You guys saw me talk about him the other day. A player that is just criminally underrated. And as I said, player like Neymar, is underrated in this country because this country just cannot. They can't relate to a player like that. As I said, if you're looking at a player of his generation, he's the best of his generation, Neymar. And the only player that can chat to him, as I keep saying, is Lionel Messi from this generation, or from the last generation. Is Lionel Messi the only one? because when we're talking about Messi versus Ronaldo, Neymar was always the third player. But Neymar, really, it should have been him and Messi. But him and Messi were in the same team. Ronaldo was getting the numbers and had the popularity, which meant that Neymar was always third, which is why he had to leave Barca to go to PSG and create his own story. Guys, keep your questions and comments coming. I will get back to them once I've got through these players. But as I said, Neymar speaks for himself, man. Like, if you want to talk about Neymar, the player, he's one of the best players of his generation, one of the best players to play the game. If you want to talk about his numbers are elite as well. As I said, man, there's just no denying how good Neymar was. As I said, I'm not going to dwell on it too much because you guys heard me talk about him the other day, but easy one, elite, no doubting. Let's move on, and we move on to Jan Oblak. Oblak's a difficult one. He's difficult, but he's a top keeper. But I'm going to put Oblak into world class. You know, world class goalkeeper for me. You know, doesn't really get the credit he deserves probably. You know, been at Atletico Madrid for years, Slovenian international. I think when he first came to Atletico was relatively unknown, but instrumental in them winning, you know, the La Liga and doing what they've been doing. Again, commanding goalkeeper. And a lot of these goalkeepers have a lot in common. You know, good distribution, commanding of their box, you know, kicking's good, leadership. All three of them keepers are leaders as well, you know. But I think Courtois and Neuer, for me, were just ahead of Oblak, you know. But Oblak's still a very top goalkeeper anyway. Let's move on. Gerard Piqué. I'm going to put Piqué into... This is difficult. I'm going to put Piqué into, I'll say world class. You know, I was torn between world class or very good. You know, obviously, Piqué coming through the La Masia before going to Man United and then going back to Barcelona. And again, his partnership with Carlos Puyol is arguably the partnership that started taking him to levels, really. You know, but as I said, I don't think he was elite in terms of the elite centre backs, but he was still, man, a top defender. You know, ball playing defender. You know, it wasn't blessed with pace, but could read the game. You know, was good in the air as well. And his partnership with Puyol when they had Dani Alves at right back and Jordi Alba at left back, you know, was the cornerstone for the defense, really. You know, and he was a massive part of that. You know, so Gerard Piqué for me is a world-class defender. But I wouldn't say he was. I wouldn't say he was in the elite level for me. Moving on. Now, this guy is going to divide opinion. Not for me. Not for me. And Paul Pogba, I'm putting him in the elite category with Neymar. Very similar to Neymar, yeah. Very similar to Neymar. In English football, with the English fans and the media and the pundits, yeah. They just cannot recognize, or they don't want to recognize players like that, Paul Pogba and Neymar. But whether people agree to it or not, you've got two players there that are the best players of their generation. Like, Paul Pogba is another one that I'm not going to talk too long on because I spoke about him the other day. And you're looking at two players here, you know, that are underrated in this country, but rated in other countries, you know. And as I said, like, there's no denying Paul Pogba's ability. You know, his ability was just ridiculous. The guy could do everything. You know, his time at Man United wasn't as good as he would have hoped to be. But this is a guy, man, at Juventus, when he was coming through, was the best young midfielder in the world, which culminated in him winning the Golden Boy Award. You know, and then I said that's what prompted Man United to break their transfer record to go and get him. And I always say, Man United never provided the platform for Paul Pogba to succeed. To think that we've got Bruno Fernandes running around at Old Trafford doing what he wants, why was Paul Pogba never afforded that license? We all know why that is. I haven't got to say anything else. But when people try and tell you that Bruno's been better than Pogba, like he's been better than him in the sense of numbers, but level of performance, Paul Pogba's level of performance was streets higher than Bruno Fernandes. I've never seen Bruno Fernandes put in a complete 90-minute performance at Man United. What he does is gets GA, and people just look at his GA and ignore the performances. That's the real reason. But again, Paul Pogba, I haven't really got a chat about Pogba too much. One of the best players of his generation, easy. World Cup winner. You know what I mean? People that don't rate Paul Pogba, it kind of tells you that they don't really rate football. You know what I mean? Carlos Puyol. Puyol's a difficult one, yeah? And this might shock some people, but I'm going to put Puyol in very good. And the reason I put Puyol in very good, yeah, is because leadership, mentality, the fact that, you know, he was an absolute warrior for Barcelona. But in terms of his ability, we all know he wasn't the most gifted defender that there was. But he's someone that put that through his, you know, he threw his body on the line for Barcelona and for Spain. And the reason I've put PK ahead of Puyol is because PK was a better footballer. You know, they could both go into the same tier, really, you know. But Puyol was a complete leader. And I think if anyone rates Puyol, you're going to talk about first and foremost his leadership and what he gave to Barcelona and Spain. But I don't think he was a great footballer. He wasn't, but he was someone that was a reference point for Barcelona in terms of his leadership, you know. And as I said, man, I'm happy to put him in the very good one. You know, I know some people might probably disagree, but it is what it is. Ivan Rakitic. Rakitic, to be fair, Rakitic, yeah, was underrated. Very underrated. And I'm going to put Rakitic in world class, which might surprise people because he could easily go into very good, yeah. But Rakitic was one of them players. He was an unsung hero. Because if you think of Rakitic when he took over from Xavi, you know, when he took over from, I think, Iniesta as well. Colby says, why isn't Ronaldo in elite? Because if we're looking at Ronaldo, the footballer, he wasn't a better footballer than all of these outfield players that are in the elite category. Ronaldo's career, yeah, is unquestionable. Is you know, for what he's won, you know, for how long he's been doing it, I hear the argument, yeah. But when we're looking at Ronaldo, the footballer, there's no denying that Ronaldo, in terms of him getting older, his game very much was about numbers. Numbers should never be a way as how you judge players. The players that I've got in elite, Dani Alves, Gareth Bale, Karim Benzema, Sergio Busquets, Eden Hazard, Ibrahimovic, Iniesta, Lahm, Marcelo, Messi, Modric, Neymar, and Pogba, who are all outfield players. They're all more technically gifted than Cristiano Ronaldo. And again, this isn't about, you know, solely what they've won. I'm talking about the actual footballer, and obviously, if you want to couple that in with what the trophies they've won as well. And again, world class doesn't mean that, you know, you're not at a good level. But what I would say, yeah, is that people would automatically, and I hear it, would put Ronaldo into elite because it's more to do with the fans. It's more to do with the media. They will make you think that he is elite. And to an extent, yeah, I kind of hear the argument because, you know, it's Cristiano Ronaldo's name's everywhere. But, you know, if we're talking about proper footballers, he's not an elite level footballer. He's not. He's an elite level athlete, no doubting. But as a footballer, yeah, he's not in that level for me, man, because the players on this list here in the elite, it's hard, man. It's hard to put him in there. But big up to Colby, man. Big up yourself for coming through. Let's carry on, guys. So yeah, Rakitic for me was very underrated. you know. And again, he could easily go into very good or to world class. But I think, in actual fact, yeah, I'm going to, actually, no, I'm going to keep him in world class. I think he was underrated, Rakitic. He was, you know, I think he was an unsung hero. He was a technician, but he also worked very hard as well, you know. So I'm happy to put him in there because he was a technically gifted player, but he provided like the legs in midfield and the intelligence that Barca needed with the departure of Xavi. Moving on, Sergio Ramos. Ramos goes straight into elite for me. Ramos for me, yeah, is arguably one of the best defenders, you know, out there. He is, that the game's produced. Ramos was a warrior. So Ramos was like Carlos Puyol, but he could play. You see what I mean? He was a warrior, but he could play. He could take a free kick. He could score goals, crucial goals. Like, he was the complete defender for me. There's only been, yeah, from what I've seen, 2 players that have actually outdone Sergio Ramos from just pure ability. And that was Ronaldinho and Messi. Ronaldinho, when he was at the Bernabeu, when he turned Ramos inside out. The same with Messi, what he done at the Bernabeu. And that speaks volumes as to how good Ramos was, because Ramos was a defender that I've not seen many strikers get the better of him. You know, you could say Luis Suarez and him had good battles. I remember when Arjen Robben just burned him out in the World Cup or the Euros with pace. But in terms of Ramos's level, man, the guy was elite. And that culminated with how many Champions Leagues he won. And as I said, man, he was a top defender, Ramos. I don't think Ramos gets the recognition that he deserves. If you remember as well, yeah, what he done to Mo Salah in that Champions League final, yeah? Was it the final or the semi-final? I think it was the final. Don't underestimate what Ramos done there, yeah? Ramos done that on purpose to Salah. But that's the winning mentality of the guy. You know, Salah got a shoulder injury after that. But that's what Ramos was on. The guy was just an absolute warrior of a defender. You know, and he done what he had to do. This is the kind of defender he was. But he could back it up as well by being ultra competitive, and he was a technically skilled defender as well. You know, he had everything for me, Ramos. And as I said, man, it's an easy one for me. Right, guys, let me go on to your questions and comments. Big up yourselves. Keep it coming through as well. Lewandowski not in elite. Not for me. And that's nothing on Lewandowski, because Lewandowski was one of the best strikers of his generation. But as I keep reiterating, yeah, this elite level is very high, you know, and all the players I've got in there, if we're ignoring the goalkeepers, because goalkeepers is goalkeepers, and I've only got 2 in there, all the players in that list are just elite level players in terms of, for me, there's no debate. No debate. Because they're the best of the best for me, you know. So Lewandowski was a top player, but in terms of central strikers that are in this list, he wasn't better than Benzema or Ibrahimovic for me. But he was still a top player, Lewandowski. No doubt. Bruno's fit. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm not even going to read it out, but I hear where you're going with that, Titanium. In terms of defending, Ramos is not elite. He's overall, but he's up there. Yeah, big up to Nick, man. I disagree with that, Nick. I disagree. I think Ramos for me is a weird one, because I don't think people deep just how good of a defender he was. I think people look at his discipline record and think that, he's quite reckless. Yeah. Ramos for me was a very good defender. Look at the strengths he had. He was strong. He was quick. He was technical. He was competitive. He was very good in the air as well, despite being not 6 foot. He scored crucial goals. Like, the guy was a top defender. And the thing is, I hear it. Yeah. Overall, it probably does put him up there. But I would say, yeah, don't discount his defending. He was a top defender, man. As I said, I've only seen two players absolutely just do him, and that's Ronaldinho and Messi, and they're two of the greatest players to play the game for me. You know, he was a top defender, man. Gav, we need Messi and Maradona debate. You know what? Yeah, I don't think there's a debate to be had. Sorry, I'm just reading something. What's this? Who remembers Emiliano Sala, the guy that was meant to be going to Cardiff? So it says commercial court in France dismisses Cardiff's claims for more than 100 million compensation over 2019 death of Emiliano Sala in plane crash. Madness. And exactly as Clockender said, yeah, Ramos would do anything to win. Exactly. But yeah, just going back onto the Messi and Maradona debate. Again, it's not really worth having a debate because you can't really compare the two in a sense that, you know, Maradona was playing in an era where, you know, where the football was different. You know, there was players that genuinely were trying to take him out. And then Messi obviously was in a different era. So it's hard to debate. I think the best thing to say is that Messi basically took over the throne from Maradona. But to compare them, it is difficult to do because how do you compare them? Because it's different eras of football. You know what I mean? It is hard, really. It is hard. When I tell you about R9, I've not seen a striker close to R9 apart from Benzema. But Benzema's not R9. You know what I mean? So whereas Messi and Maradona, it's difficult to debate that, really, because it's different eras. You know? Gav, what's your stance on the Messi Maradona debate? If you say Messi, the chat demands a debate. Listen, as I just said, yeah, I don't think you can. It's hard to debate Messi and Maradona. It's hard to because again, Maradona wasn't really in my time, so I think it's disingenuous to say Maradona because I've seen clips of Maradona, but I'll be a liar to say that I've watched every Maradona game. I've more or less watched every Messi game playing for Barcelona. And by far, he's the generation's best. And this is why I say the only one that can chat to Messi really is Neymar. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say Neymar was better than Messi, in my opinion. But Neymar's still up there. But Messi, ridiculous, man. Like, so yeah, it's hard to say Messi or Maradona. I would have to say Messi because it's what I've seen, but even that don't feel right because Maradona was ridiculous. If you was to ask me Maradona or Pele, yeah, Pele's a great, but I'd probably say Maradona because Maradona's more the style that I like to see, you know. But again, these debates can go on forever. You know what I mean? You're never really gonna get to the bottom of it, really, I would say, you know, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's move back on to the game. Let's get through a few more. Marco Reus, top player. I'm gonna put Marco Reus into it's difficult, you know. I'm gonna put Marco Reus in. I'm gonna put Marco Reus in very good. But he could easily go to world class, but I put him in very good. I watched Marco Reus when he's first at Borussia Mönchengladbach before he made the move to Borussia Dortmund, obviously spending his whole time in Germany. And again, man, when he was part of the front line with Mario Götze, Aubameyang, and Lewandowski, man, that was a frightening four, man, in Bundesliga. Frightening four. And as I said, man, he was instrumental for them as well. Obviously became their captain, pure quality of a player, you know, scored goals, technical, you know, top player. But I think very good is probably a good way to kind of is a good level to put him in. And again, the level is so high to try and as Nick Fadley said, Reus, Götze, Gundogan, Lewandowski. I think people forget, man, that was Dortmund's team. Dortmund had a serious team. A serious team. You know what I mean? Because they played Royce, Goetze, and Lewandowski as the front three at the Bernabeu. And Gundogan was in there with Bender. Was it Lars or Sven Bender? The Bender brothers. Subotic, Hummels. Listen, they had some serious players, man. And Marco Reus was instrumental in that, which got them all the way to the final, which I think they got beat by Bayern Munich. You know, but what a player. But I think very good's fair. Frank Ribery, one half, and I'm going to put him and Robin together, yeah, as they're both right next to each other. So if anyone remembers, Frank Ribery, Arjen Robben formed part of the robbery partnership at Bayern Munich. And when I see wide players like that, yeah, Frank Ribery was actually a number 10 that actually ended up playing from the left, yeah. But when I see wide players like that, yeah, this is why, yeah, it's very hard for me to rank wide players now, because the level that those two were at, yeah, I'm looking at wide players right now, and I'm only looking at Lamine Yamal, Michael Olise, Mason Greenwood. You know, Ahmad for me, as ability wise, should be there, yeah. But again, if people say he's not there, I hear it because he's been inconsistent at the moment, not through no fault of his own. But I'm looking at Olise, Yamal, Olise, and Greenwood as left-footed right wingers. They're the only ones compare. And again, I'm not saying they're on the level of Robin yet, but they're the players that are comparable for me in terms of how I look at wide players that are left-footed from the right. And on the left-hand side, Kvaratskhelia, and then we're struggling. Because again, right-footed left wingers, there ain't really no one that's a standout apart from Kvaratskhelia with the ability he has. I mean, people might say Vinicius Jr., but he's a different player to a Frank Ribery. But as I said, man, the level was different in terms of those kind of wide players in comparison to what is being produced right now. So yeah, those players, the Frank Riberys, the Arjen Robbins, they're few and far between now in football. And this is why, like, those players were elite players. So if I'm putting both of them players, yeah, in the world-class category, yeah, I mean, this is why I just can't have no one tell me that Bukayo Saka is meant to be one of the best wingers in the world, because Bukayo Saka is nowhere near that level, nowhere near it. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to say to you, man. There were some top players that we just there was just some top players, man, that were in that era of football that have either retired or maybe might still be playing but are on the end, you know. And Robbery and Ribbon were just genuine world class. Again, elite is difficult. It is difficult because those two players could arguably be elite players, but I can't put them in elite, if I'm honest. You know. Moving on, guys. Now, this player here, yeah, this is probably the easiest pick. And again, we've only got 4 tiers to put in, yeah. But Mo Salah is going to go into good. And that's the easiest one to pick. And I'll tell you why, yeah. And this should be an eye-opener. This should be an eye-opener as to why people should never look at numbers as a way of comparing players. Because Mo Salah has produced in numbers. But if we're looking at Mo Salah, the footballer, which has been evident this season, Mo Salah's physicality, his athleticism has gone. You're now getting a poor player. But that's not really a surprise because, again, if you're just watching the game, you would know that the majority of Mo Salah's game is based around athleticism and pace. Now that's gone, you're seeing just what a poor footballer he is, And I think if I'm putting his numbers to the side, is he the level of Robin and Ribery? Nowhere near it as a wide player. Is he the level as a technician of Marco Reus, who's in very good? Nowhere near it. So for me, he goes into good, and I'm happy to put him in good because, as I said, man, there's no part of me, man, that thinks he's an elite or world-class player. No matter what Sky Sports want to tell you, he's a good player, and that's just it. You know what I mean? And good doesn't mean you're shit, by the way. It just means that you're not the level of some of the players that have gone by because the level was just very high. So again, he goes into good for me. David Silva. Again, David Silva for me goes into elite, an elite footballer, And again, his time at Manchester City, I think if you used to ask the majority of people, Kevin De Bruyne or David Silva, I'll be very interested to see who they actually go with. For me, it's David Silva all day long. But I think the majority, especially the English fans, would go with De Bruyne because De Bruyne is very much like Steven Gerrard. These guys are highlight players. These guys do the highlight things in terms of, the passes, in terms of, the runs, the passion. These guys are very much what the English fans can get behind. Whereas David Silva is a pure technician, and as I said, an elite footballer. The only thing that worked against David Silva, was that he didn't figure probably as much as he should have for Spain. And that wasn't because David Silva wasn't a great player, but the level of what Spain had at that time was ridiculous of players. They had Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, David Villa, David Silva, Juan Mata, Thiago Alcantara, Xabi Alonso, like Cesc Fabregas. I mean, the midfielders they had, and there's probably a few that I'm actually forgetting, was ridiculous. To have all those players in one national team and being a regular just shows you how good you have to be, really. And as I said, I think David Silva is a top footballer. And as Miss Bunny too has said, people will say KDB because of recency bias. 100%. 100%. The majority of fans will tell you De Bruyne is better than David Silva because De Bruyne's name is all over the social media. It's all over the English media. You look at when they talk about, even the pundits, they always talk about Kevin De Bruyne, but then the likes of Paul Pogba, David Silva, who are pure technicians, they get put to the side for Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne is not better than Paul Pogba and David Silva. He's not. And that's not saying that De Bruyne wasn't good, but he's not Paul Pogba. He's not David Silva. Paul Pogba, David Silva, in terms of tight spaces, these guys were press resistant. These guys were just genuine top footballers. And that's how, footballers should be remembered for. Not for the numbers, not for anything else other than just proper footballers. And this is why the elite level is the elite level for a reason, And it is recency bias, man. For me, it is. That was the generation that Spain won the Euros and the World Cup. I could be wrong. Now, listen, Miss Bunny, I think you're right. It was that level. It was that era. Because if you remember, it's when Cesc Fabregas played the pass to Iniesta. Like that national team was stacked. It was stacked of quality, man. And imagine you put a Lamine Yamal and a Pedri in that Spain squad as well. Would Pedri get a game? This I'm trying to tell you. Would Yamal get a game? That's the level that they were working with. And those two are two of the best players in the world right now. But David Silva is just an elite player for me, no doubt. No doubt. Let's move it on. Luis Suarez. I'm gonna put Luis Suarez in world class. And again, Luis Suarez, another one that could be elite. But if I've got Aguero and Lewandowski as world class, I think you have to put Suarez in there. Because out of those four, Aguero, Lewandowski, and Aguero, Lewandowski, Suarez, and Benzema for me was the best out of the four, which is why he's an elite. But those three there are just top class players anyway. And Luis Suarez for me was Luis Suarez, man, was ridiculous, man. He was an absolute warrior of a striker. And again, he's someone that those South American players, yeah, they just have something different. You know, these guys are just hungry, you know, but they have quality to back it up. And forming part of the MSN trio, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, Suarez was fundamental to that because Suarez was the link man. He was a target man. You know, he offered the physicality and he got goals and assists. And that's why that MSN is arguably the best three that I've ever seen, because you've got two players in Messi and Neymar that are creators first, but both scored goals. And you've got Suarez, who was the goal scorer, but also created. You know what I mean? And you've got three players there that were the best three in their positions in the world, you know? And as I said, Suarez was ridiculous. And as GV has said, Suarez elite at biting other players. I hear it. And at Liverpool, yeah, he was the best player in the league when he's at Liverpool, when Liverpool almost won the league. Like, he was that good, you know? And, but again, if I've got Aguero and Lewandowski, I can't put him into the elite. I got to put them at the same level because Benzema for me was just the best out of all four of them, you know? But again, there weren't really much in it. But Suarez was, was that? So yeah, man, he was mad. Yeah, I'm not even gonna read that one out, man. Yeah, madness, titanium. That's a madness. Let's move it on. Marc-Andre ter Stegen. Do you know what? Ter Stegen's a difficult one. Difficult one. I'm gonna put ter Stegen, yeah, in. I'm gonna put him in world class. I'm gonna put him in world class, but he could easily be elite for me. And I'll tell you why he could be elite is because he's probably one of the best. In actual fact, yeah. I don't know, actually. I don't know. Ter Stegen's a difficult one because Ter Stegen, for me, is one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers that there's been. You know, the guy was so comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is why Barca signed him from Borussia Mönchengladbach. Because the way that Barca played, they needed someone, you know, that was comfortable on the ball. And he was just that, you know what I mean? He was a top goalkeeper. Do I put him in the elite, though? I don't know. Guys, let me know. Do you think ter Stegen was elite or world class? I'm gonna go with the majority vote on this one. Because I could easily put him in elite, but I'm thinking world class. Because if I've got Oblak there, do we think he's the same level as Oblak, or do we think he's Courtois and ter Stegen? Let me know in the chat. Ter Stegen, world class or elite, and I'll go with what the majority think. Fitz is saying world class. Yeah, Fitz, I'm thinking that as well. I'm thinking that as well, to be honest. Guys, what do we think? World class or elite? Marc-Andre ter Stegen. Yeah, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna keep him world class. Titanium reckons elite. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm tempted to put him in elite as well. We got one vote each. I'm gonna go with the next vote as to put him in. If anyone says elite or world class, we're gonna put him into that category. We're doing Ter Stegen. So Nick Fadley said world class. Okay, we're gonna keep him in world class then. We'll keep him in world class. But listen, Ter Stegen for me was a top keeper. He was, but we'll keep him in world class. Yaya Toure. You know what? Yaya Toure for me is going to go into elite. And I'll tell you why Toure is elite, yeah? And this goes back to the Premier League. When the Premier League mentioned the best midfielders to play in the best ever midfielders, yeah, to play in the Premier League, Yaya Toure doesn't get mentioned enough, yeah? And I remember when Toure came from Barcelona playing as a centre-back and as a DM at times. And guys, you have to remember, yeah, there was a reason why Yaya Toure played centre-back for Barcelona. It's because of Sergio Busquets. Because Busquets was the best DM in the world, which meant that to get Yaya Toure in the team, he had to play at centre-back. I don't think there's no one in the chat that would have believed that Yaya Toure would be playing as a number 10 for Man City. And I have to say, yeah, he did it to devastating effect. Because when people mention the best central midfielders to ever play in the Premier League, the only player that I would argue, yeah, that has a right to be probably in there ahead of Yaya Toure is Paul Scholes. He's the only one. Because I don't think people deep here just how good Yaya Toure was. He was devastating. He was strong. He had a good change of pace. He was a good dribbler. He was technical off both feet. He could shoot. He was good in the air. He had no weaknesses. And when you're a player like that has no weaknesses, yeah, you cannot help but not be a top player. And as I said, people want to talk about Gerrard or Lampard or, you know, Scholes, these other midfielders, Vieira, Fabregas, but not a lot gets Roy Keane, but not a lot gets spoken about with Yaya Toure. And Yaya Toure for me is easily elite, you know, and again, he is one of the best midfielders to play in the Premier League, if not the best, because I don't think people deep just what weapons he had. And he was instrumental in Man City, you know, winning Premier League titles. He was that good. I'm laughing, guys, because I knew this was going to come about, yeah? And we're going to go on to Virgil van Dijk, Virgil van Disney, Virgil van Donny, whatever you want to call him, yeah? And Van Dijk for me, yeah, I'm going to put Van Dijk into world class, you know? Again, I know some people might disagree, but I'm going to put Van Dijk into world class. And I'll tell you why, yeah? For me, Van Dijk, the footballer as a defender, yeah, in his prime, yeah, Virgil van Twerk, I hear it, but Van Dijk, the defender, yeah, in terms of him in his prime, yeah, I know him now, yeah, he's struggling, you know, and if you guys haven't seen Craig Burley on ESPN, yeah, has spoken about something that Fitz did look at, you know, and big up to Fitz, because he was onto this for time, yeah, about Van Dijk, about the amount of mistakes he makes, and he's arguably the main reason for them conceding goals. I'm looking at Van Dijk in terms of what he has in his prime, yeah. He was technical, you know, he was good in the air, you know, composed, good pace, strong. Like, as a defender, yeah, I rate Van Dijk highly in terms of a technician as well. And what I would say, yeah, is that he is someone, and how I separate defenders, yeah, is look at their defending, but look at what else they have with it as well. And there's no denying Van Dijk was at a time the best defender in the world with what he was doing. I think it's quite clear now, yeah, that he has dropped off. And again, it's the age. Remember, start of the season, you know, I was saying that Van Dijk needs to be playing as part of the back three to help him. And the fact that he, you know, the fact that is getting on a bit now, and I think he's been exposed. You know, maybe he's been exposed by Arne Slot, the system. But I'm looking at Van Dijk, you know, in his prime. yeah, I think he's easily world class. Elite, again, I'm probably saying he's not elite because of what he's producing right now. And again, the only centre back that I've got in that list so far, or that's going to be there, that is elite, is Sergio Ramos, which tells you the level. Yeah, but again, I think world class is probably about right, if I'm honest. Big up to Babs One Diva with a super sticker. Big up yourself each and every time. Appreciate the love. Big up to yourself. Let's move on. We've got a couple of players to get through before we wrap it up. And guys, make sure you come back. We're live at 5:30. So I'm going to go and eat some food in a bit. And then we'll be back at 5:30 with our usual stream. It's a stream you don't want to miss, guys. It's going to be a good one. So yeah, make sure you're there. Rafael Varane. I think if you're putting Van Dijk in world class, Varane has to go in world class for me. Formed part of the partnership with Real Madrid, with Ramos for so many years. When he came to Man United, he was instrumental in making Lisandro Martinez look a player. And again, Varane for me, just a top defender. Again, he's a player for me, defender, that if you're looking at on the eye, wasn't a smooth Rolls Royce of a defender, but recovery pace, intelligence, his understanding, for me, was just up there, man. As I said, man, top defender, multiple Champions Leagues, World Cup with France as well, top defender. And again, he goes into world class because, as I said, the level for world class and the fact that I've got one centre back in there just shows you everything. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but he's still a top defender, man. If I got Van Dijk world class, I think Varane has to go in there as well. Arturo Vidal, Bayern Munich. I'm going to put Vidal in very good. Yeah. And Arturo Vidal, for me, was a top defender. He was top defender. Midfielder, sorry. Him and Alexis Sanchez were crucial for that Chile national team. But I look at Vidal as again, formerly a Barcelona as well. But he is a modern day midfielder that you'd probably get right now. If you look at the likes of a Declan Rice, box-to-box midfielder, he's probably the equivalent to Arturo Vidal, what Vidal was back then. And again, the fact that people say that that Declan Rice is world class, that shows you how the level has dropped, because Vidal wasn't regarded as world class, but he was regarded as a very good midfielder. And if Declan Rice is world class in this era, that's evident why this era is in the mud. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at Vidal as the equivalent to a Declan Rice, and Declan Rice is nowhere near as good as Vidal. So that's why I put Vidal in very good. But again, top midfielder, was crucial in that midfield with Paul Pogba, Pirlo, Marquisio, for Juventus, crucial, and obviously, yeah, the fact that he's played for Juventus, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, just speaks volume for how good he was, But again, the level of elite and world class is difficult to get into for me. Moving on, David Villa. One of my favorite players, David Villa. I've spoken about David Villa before. Again, if you guys haven't seen it, go and check out My Greats of the Game. David Villa features in there. And again, I'm not going to speak too much on David Villa because David Villa, for me, was just a top player, man. Top player. Is he still Spain's all-time top goal scorer? I think he might be. Or has someone broken it? I can't remember. But again, David Villa, man, at Valencia was devastating with, David Silva in the team behind him. And with David Villa, him coming to Barcelona to play on the left-hand side, I never really expected that. But this is how Messi got his 91 goals in the calendar year, when he had David Villa and Pedro on either side. And David Villa, man, top player for club and country, and there's no slight on David Villa playing from the left for Barca because, again, Messi was playing as the false nine under Pep and it worked. But if those of you that have forgotten about David Villa, again, go and watch some clips of David Villa, man. Ridiculous player, man. I say one of my favorite strikers to watch. incredible player, man. And again, he's a world-class player. World-class player for me. Let's move on. Wayne Rooney. Rooney goes into world-class for me, you know. And the reason why Rooney's in world-class, you know, is because in actual fact, yeah, this might disappoint some people, yeah. You could easily put Wayne Rooney in very good. And I'll tell you why, yeah. Wayne Rooney was a very, very good player in the Premier League. One of the best players in the Premier League, yeah. But go and have a look at Wayne Rooney's Champions League and his World Cup record. If you want to look at goals, yeah, he's scored 1 World Cup goal, yeah. And the Champions League, I don't think his record's that great either. Yeah. So again, I think a lot of people would put Wayne Rooney in the world-class category for what he done in the Premier League. And I hear it. And again, I'm someone that, you know, had the privilege of playing against Wayne Rooney when I was 14 years of age. So again, I've seen Wayne Rooney up and close as to how good he was, even at that age. And what I would say, yeah, is that Wayne Rooney, man, is, for me, he's one of the best players that England has produced, no doubting. But we cannot shy away from his record for England at the World Cup, because a player of that level to get 1 World Cup goal is poor. No matter what anyone says, it's poor, because no one would have predicted that. And again, Champions League, you know, there was good games in there. You know, if you look at his debut for Man United, scoring a hat-trick against Fenerbahce. But again, man, he was a top player, man. And some of the goals he scored for Man United, man, if you remember the volley against Newcastle when he was arguing with the ref, turned around and hit it. And that was Wayne Rooney in a nutshell, you know what I mean? And again, what made Wayne Rooney was his passion for the game, you know, his hunger, putting his technique to the side. Like, Wayne Rooney's passion for the game was mad. Nick Fadley saying Kane is better. I hear it. And again, Kane and Rooney as a comparison, it's hard to disagree. But I think, is Kane playing in an easier era of football than what Wayne Rooney was playing in? You know what I mean? So it's hard to kind of judge that, really. But yeah, Wayne Rooney for me wasn't elite, but definitely world class for me, you know. And I wouldn't even blame people if they're looking at his World Cup record, his Champions League record, to say he might have to go into very good. But I think his and as Clockender said, thing with Rooney was he'd get 2 goals in 12, then bag a load in the next 2 games. But again, I think Clockender's a bit bitter, because if you remember, Rooney scored the his debut goal against Arsenal. So Clockenders might be a bit bitter there, man. But I understand it. But I think world class for me is fine. I think I'm going to keep him in world class, you know. But yeah, what a player, man. Moving on, Xabi Alonso. I'm going to put Xabi Alonso in world class as well. And again, Xabi Alonso for me, I think Xabi Alonso was the unsung hero for Liverpool. I think a lot of Liverpool's praise was going to Steven Gerrard, but there's a reason why Steven Gerrard played as a 10 and Xabi Alonso was playing in the hub of the midfield, because, you know, the likes of Gerard Houllier didn't trust Gerrard as a central midfielder. He didn't, you know, and preferred playing Gerrard high up the pitch, because the central midfield role required, you know, composure and someone that could control the pace of the game, which Gerrard wasn't that. Gerrard was more the action man in midfield for Liverpool, obviously come through the club's academy, you know, but Xabi Alonso was the brains of the operation, as you would say, in the midfield. And for me, he was definitely a world-class footballer, you know, world-class footballer. And to think that Spain had, as I said, all those players I've mentioned already in one team, and Xabi Alonso really didn't play as much as he should have, is testament just to how good Spain had a midfield there. you know. But yeah, I think as a footballer, you know, obviously went to Real Madrid. I think he's definitely going to go into world class for me, which leaves the last player. Now, this one's tough, yeah, because I'm looking at two categories here for Xavi. And what I'm going to do, because he's the last player, I'm going to go down to majority vote. Yeah. So, guys, Xavi Hernandez, are we putting him in world class or elite? I'm going to go down to majority vote. Guys, bear me 1 minute. I'm just going to I'm just going to pop off quickly. But let me know in the chat, yeah, where you put in Xavi Hernandez. Are you going to put him in world class or are you going to put him in elite? Bear me 1 minute. Right, let's see what you guys have put. 11 of players who are flashy versus boring. Yeah, that would be a good one. That would be a good one. Spain 2010 versus Brazil 2002. Oh, that's difficult, man. Spain 2010 versus Brazil 2002. Boy, I'll be honest with you, man. When you've got R9, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho in one team, I don't think you can bet against that, man. So I'm not too sure with that, man. But that's a tough one. Spain, guys, let me know in the chat. Spain versus Brazil, Spain 2010 or Brazil 2002. But I'm just saying, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and R9. I don't know how you beat that personally. Titanium saying Xavi's elite. Fitz is saying world class. Nick Fadley saying elite. So we got 2-1. So clock enders, let me know. What do you think, Xavi? Elite or world class? And then I'll just put them in whatever one. And if it's 2-2, I'm gonna go with the deciding vote. So Titanium says elite. Fitz is saying world class. Nick Fadley saying elite. Guys, let me know. What do you think? Xavi Hernandez. No, Xavi Hernandez. Are we putting him in elite or world class? Yeah, bro. Xavi Hernandez. Elite or world class? No. Xavi Hernandez, not Xabi Alonso. Xavi Hernandez. Okay. Clockenders is saying world class. Big up to Karen says elite. You know what? I'm torn between elite and world class. So let's go through. Let's see. So we got, I think, is it 3-3? Okay, world class. Xavi. You know what, Nick? I actually think Iniesta was better than Xavi. So Iniesta's elite for me. And Xavi was a bad boy, but I prefer Iniesta personally. Yeah, let's do a poll. But well, the thing is, I can't even do a poll on there. Actually, I don't think. Let me see. I don't think you can do any polls on there. Yeah, I don't think you can do one on there. To be fair. Yeah, I'm stuck, man. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. You know what? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have the deciding vote. Yeah, I'm gonna say Xavi Hernandez. I'm gonna put him in world class. I'm gonna put him in world class. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in world class because I rate Xavi highly. Yeah, but the way that I'm gonna dissect this, yeah, is, and again, this is nothing on Xavi, by the way, because it's difficult to do. But that midfield three of Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta, yeah. If we was to say in order 1, 2, and 3, I think Xavi would be third. And if I've got Busquets and Iniesta in elite, I think it's only right to put Xavi in world class, which is difficult, man. It's difficult to do. So, yeah, I think that's the best way I could probably look at it. If you're gonna rank them in order, and again, it don't mean that because Xavi's in third, like he's the third, he's like not good, but that's an elite level there. I think Xavi being third is only right. Xavi being third is only right, man, to put him in world class again. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say, man. I'm gonna put him in world class. But guys, that's everyone done now. Let me just run through the list again, just so we're aware, yeah. So obviously the 4 tiers, guys, we've got elite, world class, and we've got good. So if we start from the bottom, so the players that are in good: Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Diego Godin, and Mo Salah. In very good, we've got Jordi Alba, Iker Casillas, Carlos Puyol, Marco Reus, and Arturo Vidal. In world class, we've got Alexis Sanchez, Casemiro, Cesc Fabregas, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin De Bruyne, Angel Di Maria, Anton Griezmann, Toni Kroos, Sergio Aguero, Robert Lewandowski, Kylian Mbappe, Jan Oblak, Gerard Piqué, Ivan Rakitic, Frank Ribery, Arjen Robben, Luis Suarez, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, Virgil van Dijk, Rafael Varane, David Villa, Wayne Rooney, Xabi Alonso, and Xavi Hernandez. And then in elite, we've got Dani Alves, Gareth Bale, Karim Benzema, Sergio Busquets, Thibaut Courtois, Eden Hazard, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Andres Iniesta, Philip Lahm, Marcelo, Lionel Messi, Luka Modric, Manuel Neuer, Neymar, Paul Pogba, Sergio Ramos, David Silva, and Yaya Toure. So again, I'm pretty happy with that, you know, and I think it's a difficult one to do, but yeah, it is difficult, man, to kind of to comprise. But I'm happy with that list, man. I think that's a fair list to do, you know. But again, like, you know, there's other players that I know many would probably put into different tiers, but yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But guys, I'm going to go through a few more of your questions and comments before we wrap it up. As I said, we are going to be back at 5:30 for our usual stream with myself, Fitz, and Jonas. Make sure you don't miss that one. It's going to be a good one. And also as well, guys, I've got something coming out today at I think 8 o'clock, great to the game. So yeah, keep your eye on that as well. So yeah, let's see. So what players have I got in elite? Yaya in elite and Xavi isn't. Yeah, well, the thing is, as I said, Yaya Toure, I think what I would say, yeah, is why do you think Yaya Toure shouldn't be in there ahead of Xavi? That's the thing. It's a difficult one. Bale in elite and Ronaldo isn't. That's not a hard one. Gareth Bale was a world-class footballer. Ronaldo wasn't. Ronaldo's name, yeah, in terms of why it was propelled to be an elite footballer is based off of numbers. But if you look at Ronaldo, the footballer, you know, he wasn't a footballer at the level of the players that were elite for me. Nowhere near it. As I said, he was a great, he's done great in terms of the trophies, the goals. But as you can see, as he's got older, his game was more about numbers. You know what I mean? And as I said, I'm looking at the footballer and the actual pure technician of a footballer. That's why if you look at the list that I've done, yeah, there's no denying that all these players in that list are all top footballers. And this is why Xavi, for me, could be an either. But I think Xavi at world class, man, for me, I think, yeah, he's right for me. But Yaya Toure is underrated, man. I think people sleep on Yaya Toure because Yaya Toure, for me, is arguably one of the best midfielders to play in the Premier League. As I said, I think Paul Scholes is the only one that could go ahead of him, you know. But if there's people that think Xavi Hernandez should be in elite, I wouldn't really argue with that. If there's people that think Ronaldo should be in elite, I think people would only say he's elite because of his numbers. And again, this is not about the numbers for me. This is about, you know, how good they were as footballers mainly. And then the numbers or the trophies won might be into it as well. Yeah, longevity, not for me, because Ronaldinho never had longevity. R9 really didn't have longevity. But these are two of the best players to ever play the game. So I don't care about longevity because Ryan Giggs had longevity. But are you going to tell me that Ryan Giggs is better than Ronaldinho? Because he's not. It's that simple. And Giggsy was a great player, but he ain't better than Ronaldinho. He's just not. Was Kinski in the Spurs 11? Boy, you have to watch it to find out, man. David Silva was in elite for me. Gareth Bale, I think Bale is quite similar to Ronaldo in how they play. I wouldn't say so, and I'll tell you why, yeah? People think Gareth Bale was just this mad athlete with pace, yeah? Gareth Bale was a footballer first and foremost. His pace was his it was his bonus. You know what I mean? His technical ability was ridiculous. You don't strike the ball the way he does, yeah, or take free kick the way he does if you're not that highly technical. And as I said, like Gareth Bale was first and foremost a footballer. Ronaldo, when he first come to Man United, it was the flicks, it was the step overs, and obviously he refined his game to being an absolute goal scorer. But a goal scorer shouldn't cloud your judgment into thinking that these guys are elite footballers. There's a reason why Mo Salah is in good, because for all the goals that he's scored, that shouldn't be judged as being an elite footballer. It's not. And again, I'm putting Ronaldo in terms of everything together. And I think world class is the level for me. I wouldn't put him in elite. People put him in elite because of Ronaldo, the name. But I'm not going to do that. So is what it is. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming through. I'm going to eat some food now. Obviously, we're going to be back at 5:30 for the stream with myself, Fitz, and with and Jonas. Guys, make sure you come back through at 5:30. As I say, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be an interesting one that some of you guys are probably going to find a bit surprising. But again, make sure you come and watch that, man, because it's going to be a good one, as I said. And as always, on your way out, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel. And make sure you share the channel on all your platforms as well, which would be much appreciated. And yeah, as I said, we're back at 5:30 for our normal stream. And yeah, hope to see you guys there. And again, let me know in the comments what you think of the tier list. Again, if you disagree, then yeah, make sure you put that in the comments afterwards. Because I know there's a few players that you guys are gonna disagree with, but this is what it's about. So yeah, let me know, and yeah, I'll catch you guys back at 5:30. Take it easy.